Everybody would stand for the pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, and thank you for wearing a mask with the new direction from the state. Doesn't allow mixing and matching of fully vaccinated with mask wearing persons. Everybody needs to wear a mask whether you're vaccinated or not. So if I lose my voice, I've been told I can't even take off my mask. So if you're uncomfortable, I can tell you after 3 hours, I'll probably be even more
after
comfortable.
3 hours, 2 hours.
Move it along.
Move it along, move it along. First person.
I'll use my best Shakespearean voice, stage voice. Okay, so some administrative things. First, but before that, the roll call.
Chair Jones,
Here.
Mr. Zarowski,
Here.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Grasso,
Here.
Mr. Pinsky,
Yeah.
Ms. Maloney,
Absolutely. Notice.
and Mr. Jarvis.
I don't see him. I'm sure he's here. Oh, he's not going to be here either.
He's gonna be here late, he said.
Wait, okay.
And we also have the attorney for the town, Mary Lou Christiana, present as well.
Okay, great. I want to make a decision, board needs to make a decision on the workshop for the end of the month. I'll entertain a motion to
Cancel it.
recommend that we have it.
So moved.
Second.
Moved Mark, seconded by
Lindstrom.
I think everyone has now.
By everybody.
Anyone?
all in favor of canceling the workshop meeting for this
Aye.
one?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, it passes. We need to update the meetings, meeting dates for next year. Again, sorry about that. But the meetings of, we're not going to change the dates for May and December, the workshop meetings. Because if we did, they'd be too close to the regular meeting. There'd only be a week between the regular meeting and the workshop. So we're going to leave them as the May dates that were in there in December. And I'm going to ask the board to approve just marking them as already canceled. This is a workshop meeting.
You don't even have to put them in your list if you're just gonna cancel.
But we already.
We already
Oh, did
published
they
it.
already vote
voted on
Yeah, we already
them?
published it.
So
So I'll entertain a motion,
When is that?
the May meeting, May, I believe, of next year, and the December meeting of next year. Again, the reason for just marking them canceled is there's time to get things together between the regular meeting and the workshop meeting. If we do need the workshop meeting on those months, we can come back with enough time notice to the public, we can have them. So I'll entertain a motion to mark them as already canceled. Workshop, not the regular meeting.
What was the second one? May and?
It's May and December. You have to look at your calendar. I don't
I'll
have
make
it.
the motion.
Well, the May one is actually on Memorial Day,
Yeah.
Right.
and the
To-
December one
Cancel.
Is the
Like the
20,
day after Christmas. I
is
think.
the
I second the
20
motion, Patrick.
26th, which will be the Christmas holiday.
Uh.
Because Christmas is on a Sunday.
Okay,
okay, anybody want to make a motion?
He did, I
Patrick?
seconded it.
thank you. Yeah.
And Aaron seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. So trainings, I believe everybody's made their training credits for this year. Is that true?
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right.
And I'll entertain, well, if anybody hasn't read the meetings, the minutes from last meeting, if you want to scan through them, okay, but I know a few people have read them in detail. And so I'll give you a minute or two if you want to look at them again. These are the minutes of the
November 8th.
November 8th regular planning board meeting. And I'll entertain a motion when you're ready.
I'll move to approve the November 8th workshop minutes.
Sam moved. and
I'll
I
second it.
Patrick. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'll keep
Nobody
alternating.
opposed.
you guys.
That's good.
Okay.
It
So
was so good.
let's get started. First one on our agenda is a lot line adjustment for Nicholas Shanglu and Annetta Markowski. Are either of those people here, or is there a representative here?
I'm a representative for them.
You want to come on up and sit up here in the front here?
Sure thing.
And you're Mr.
David Hahn, general contractor, Safe Bet Builders, Inc.
do you have anything that you want to present to us?
No.
Okay, that's easy.
Great
All
answer.
right, so I reviewed everything, and I'm sure the board looked at everything that's here. It's a lot line adjustment. It is taking two parcels, 4.1 acres and 3.8 acres, and combining them into one lot, making it into a 7.9 acre parcel. It's in the R2 zoning district, and the location is,
111 Ridgewood,
say it again,
Ridgewood Road.
Ridgewood Road. Okay,
It'd be combining 107 and 111.
okay, 107, 111.
Just deleting the lot line.
Just saying a lot line, that's it.
Yep. So, I mean, this is a no-brainer. The issue is the signature. There's a number of issues, but one of them is, I don't have on any of the application material, the signature of, well, this is Nicholas Shang Lu. I only have Mr. Marakowski's signature.
Yeah, immediately, but not the other.
I don't have the other one, so not gonna,
We gotta
As I
get
said-
Nicholas's signature.
I don't think anybody on the board, I'll ask for it in a minute, but from my perspective, there's no problem with this, right? We need the signature of the other person,
Okay,
this Nicholas Chang Lu. And the map is not the map you gave us, which is just a draft map, a sketch, needs to be done by a licensed surveyor. It needs to have meets and bounds on it.
Can I-
And what I'm gonna do is.
can I
give
see,
you-
is there any way I can see what you have?
Bob, you wanna show us?
Just off of the parcel you were. Or like, yeah, to print that.
Yeah, there's no-
It's on
we don't
the,
have those.
right, the developer's map.
Just
So,
need the printed map.
What I'm gonna do, and pardon me if I'm not throwing it at you, just
Yeah.
sliding it down and throwing it past that. Here's a list of all the requirements for the map in order for us to certify the lot line improvement.
Mm,
It's things like meets and bounds, the names of the applicants with their addresses, a box for me to sign, a box that gives what the zone requires in terms of bulk alignment, setbacks, a whole host of things. It's
mhm.
pro forma, it's right out of the code, it's listed there. So I need for you to come back, and I'm going to ask the board for any comments, or if they have questions. I'm going to ask you to come back in January. If you have the map entirely done or close to it, we can certify it. I won't sign the map until everything that's on that list is actually done. But there's so many things missing from the map as it is right now, I can't,
Mhm.
I'm not even going to go through with the certification,
Uh,
which we have prepared, but
Right.
does the
Can't we
board have any?
certify it
Sorry.
pending everything being done? So you just look at the map and it's got everything
In
on
my
it?
opinion,
I
at this
don't wanna-
point,
I don't want
nothing's
to,
on it.
I don't want to do that.
You know,
to
it's
be
like
honest
somebody
with you.
coming and saying, here's my tax map. And here's a line. We don't know where that line is, you know,
Right. if it-
and I agree with
do it
Rick that
fair.
once we have the proper map, this is gonna be easy. But
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm
So it
not
needs to be a map from,
Surveyor.
The surveyor.
surveyor,
licensed
engineer.
surveyor. I need the surveyor's stamp on it,
mm,
sign away his
we need the meets
firstborn,
and bounds.
meets and bounds.
we have to spend
And
money.
when it goes, because when it gets filed, the real property
So it'd be too late
Tax
to try
map,
to
you
get
know.
that now.
Yeah.
tax mapping service has to know where that line's gonna actually be.
Okay. So does the
Once we
board
get
have any other comments?
Nope.
I think we can confirm that once we get the map, right?
Yeah.
We're in
Yeah.
pretty good shape. Yeah.
And we'll just do it, it'll be pro forma next week. And if there are a few
Alright.
items.
Next month.
I'm sorry, next month. If there are a few items still missing that we point out, okay, but there's nothing on there
Aerial
in
photos.
terms of the
No, no.
requirements. If you want to
the-
If you want to give me a call during the week, you can get a hold of me through Nicole, and I'll go through it with you. There are some things that you don't need,
Okay,
all right? It's all
Really just the map.
encompassing. I'll tell you what the major things.
okay,
all
that
right?
sounds
We
good.
can go through that.
Is there a number I could, I'll just call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call Nicole, we'll set up a time. If you can even come in, I'll spend an hour with you.
Okay. Sounds great.
I think that's it.
Yep.
So I'll make a motion
We don't have
The
We
chair
don't
will
need to
make a
make a
motion to
motion.
put it on
We
the
don't need to
agenda
make
for
a
next
motion.
month.
Oh, we need to get the map
If you get
first.
the map, you'll put it on the
They'll
agenda.
just see it.
See you when you bring the map.
See you when
All
you have
right.
that.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you very much.
Next project is Karen Hoff.
Hello.
Come on, have a seat.
My name is Benjamin Russ. I'm Karen Hoff's son. I'm here as a representative. Hi,
Hi.
thanks for
How
seeing
are you?
me.
You want to just tell us about the property, where it is?
It's
what you're
on
doing?
Sundale Roads, 135 Sundale Road. And it's a lot line change, acres towards our neighbor at 136 Jim Greenhall. Between my mother's place and Jim Greenhall's place.
Okay, so,
They're basically just giving 6 acres to have a better access from Mr.
That's right,
Greenhall
yeah.
right there. Because if you look at the entire lot, it's huge.
It
It
is.
goes all the way along Sundale, all
A lot of furniture.
for forever.
yeah, some of the parcels on the other side of the river, of the creek, some is on this side.
Yes.
Well, it doesn't matter. The creek is irrelevant.
Oh, no, this parcel, no, it's all on one
It's
side.
all over.
Yeah.
It's, lot 1 is on both sides.
Is on
The
the
creek
same-
is just in there,
That's
So-
soaking away.
Mr. Hoff, the same thing as the previous one. The map is missing most of the things that we require to be on even a sketch map.
This one's better than the last one.
It is better. This was prepared by a licensed surveyor, but it's missing meets and bounds. Address of the people, the hops and the green walls. Again, I don't mean to twist this down there, but I will twist it down. Sam, maybe you could just.
Thank you.
Same thing, you can give the whole call.
Okay.
It looks like John already did most of the work.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, you
yeah, he-
gotta get the
yeah.
meets and bounds in
Yep.
there, because again, the county can't separate these out on the tax maps if they don't know exactly.
Don't know what
where
that
line
is. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
All right.
You
So
should.
Meets and bounds and Jim's address and my mom's address.
Why don't you give me, why don't you
Or
give
have John
Nicole a
give you
call?
a call.
I'll
Okay.
call you and spend a half hour on the phone with you and tell you what you need.
All right, Nicole, I'll call you tomorrow, maybe?
Yeah.
Right. Have a nice night.
Okay,
All right.
all right,
Take care.
thank you.
Yeah.
If we get it in time for the next meeting, we'll put you on the next meeting.
That'd be great.
All right,
All right, take care.
thank you. What is it going?
Seven.
Don't stop now.
Keep it going, keep it going. We got momentum. Horses are on
Mr.
the track.
Griffiths, is Mr. Griffiths here? Come on up, Mr. Griffiths.
Oh, it's me. Hello,
Do you
strangers.
want to,
Yeah, come on up if you want to come up.
Hello, you are Mr. Griffiths.
I am.
Person I know through email only. Nice to
Okay,
meet
hi, nice to
you.
meet you.
Here's your file.
Okay.
all right, so the board should be able to get this on the computer, the map. And what's happening with this, this is a map, this is a piece of property down by, off of Peninsula Lane. This was previously subdivided. And the lot 12.100 is changing the lot line to give additional lands to lot 13.100. And I'll stop there, and Heather, I'll let you explain when this subdivision was done, if there's anything that I said that's not correct, or whatever else you or the applicant wanted to add to the explanation.
Well, thanks, Rick. Like you said, this is at the end of Peninsula Lane, and this is a subdivision, existing subdivision called Mountain View Stables. The filed map was filed in 2006, and slowly these lots have been acquired. There's been a kind of an uptick recently, and what's going on here is that Mr. Griffiths and some friends of Mr. Griffiths bought 2 of these lots, and they'd like to adjust the lot line in between them so that the area is more equitable between the 2 lots.
Doesn't that have to be a major subdivision because it's an existing subdivision and we're reopening it?
I realize that is part of the conversation here, though we did get the zoning approval that said it wasn't simply a lot line adjustment. Either way, we would like to proceed. I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges, which seem to all be apples really in retrospect.
So you're just trying to grow one lot and shrink the other?
Exactly.
So Mary Lou, would you comment on whether this
Let me just
lot line
look at the,
throws it into the major subdivision category, or it's still, it's just a lot line?
Jerry gave it to us as a lot line, correct?
Yes.
Yep. Jerry, by the way, for anybody's wondering, is the
Right.
building inspector.
And
No, we
they're
have
just
asked for
switching a
a-
line within two lots, they're not
Very.
adding lots, they're not.
But that goes against the beginning of one
Well, that,
twenty-five.
I'm
Yeah,
pulling that up right now, Maury.
So just to add what Mary Lou's pulling, we're not have to change any of the access points, any of the septic systems, the setbacks are still adequate. So it really is just a conveyance of almost 8 acres between the two
I mean,
lots.
the way it's drawn, it looks like you might at some point in time come back and ask to do a minor subdivision of that particular lot with a flag driveway, but right now it's not, you're not subdividing, you're just changing lot lines.
No, that's not what you guys were intending. From what I understand, like I said,
We say-
Mr. Griffiths and his wife own one lot and some friends of Mr. Griffiths and also
Which
the other
lot do
lot.
you own?
We've got what's the number there?
This is a larger lot here. I think it's 12, and then I think you have
12.100?
13. Yeah, you have 13.
13, yeah, and we're taking
You and
part
your
of
wife.
12. If I understood your question, were you asking if we intend to further subdivide it at some point? No, there's a covenant against it, and either way, that's not the intention.
There's a covenant within the,
The two you own the two lots separately currently?
Yeah, we
Like you
own,
don't, there's not like a LLC or something that.
No, it's just like,
we have one lot and then we own a third of the larger lot. And we just want to basically take the
Well, you-
third and attach it to ours.
You own a third of the other lot?
Yeah.
So you already own it, but it's under a separate meets and bounds?
No, we just own a third interest with other people in
So
lots.
that might be the loophole.
What lot?
Because the re-subdivision says it only has to be treated as a major subdivision if it's owned by more than one party. So if you own a
Would you-
third of it,
You have two
With
different
other
people
parties,
own
though.
it.
right, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but that might be,
well, is that the loophole, or is it just that it's a lot line and it's not involving the subdivision?
I mean, I think Martin's point is right, because it says any change, including an improvement, is to be treated as
Major subdivision.
whatever it was,
right.
except if the parcels involved are owned by more than one party.
125 there.
Or if rights have been given to others.
All parties
It's
must be
in glossary of
co-applicants who agree
terms
to the
in
re-subdivision.
125.11.
just let it play out.
Oh, it's just saying that if there's more than one owner. it has to
Oh.
agree.
Got it. Never mind.
So, Madam Counselor,
Actually, I would
Because
look into
Once
replacing
again,
the
you can't be
subdivision.
arbitrary and capricious, and
Was
we
it
made
changed?
Verna Gillis
Yeah,
go
yeah,
through
we did,
this.
Yeah,
When she did a lot line, exactly the same thing, because
Mm-hmm.
all she did was give a little tiny piece
To the
so the
neighbor.
well could be on the proper lot.
And the spoon makers as well.
And the
Right, so
spoon
we need
makers
to
as
ask
well.
for
But there's
like a
some-
blanket-
There's some waivers, right?
They can just ask for a waiver.
You can ask for
It
some
has to come back as a major subdivision, be filled out as a major subdivision. You
With
just,
waivers.
and you just say, please waive pretty much everything.
It's like, you represented Verna Gillis,
Yeah,
so you.
it's the same.
Okay,
You
so
have the
that's
letter.
kind of what I'm trying to establish. So what
Yeah.
are we, these things are obviously recurring on a somewhat regular
Right.
basis. So now, so the next time around, not with you unfortunately, would be just to submit the application with the waiver
As a
request,
major
because like I
subdivision.
was saying, it came back from zoning as a lot line
Yeah.
improvement. So then I'm
Yeah, what do
saying,
we do then?
isn't that what trumps I'm not sure whose jurisdiction this is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Well,
Maybe this is an off-board conversation. That's, sorry. public.
Do we have to get a new determination? Like, do we send it back to?
I mean,
Well, Jerry wouldn't know if it was a major subdivision prior to making a determination, would he?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it does ask on the application if it's an existing
Oh, okay.
subdivision.
All right, so then that's the ball.
Doesn't
I think what we,
always go
Is
to
it-
Jerry. Doesn't go to Jerry.
I don't know how we got
Well,
to determine that the other ones were major subdivision,
came
whether
as-
they came in, I think, as majors. This one came in as a lot line.
right,
So I know we always say whatever the
Jerry, right.
CEO Jerry says is what we do. In this case, it's exactly like the others that he came in with the major subdivision.
I have it in my.
So
so I mean.
do we table it and check
Send
with
a
them?
letter?
Can't we send a letter back to?
I mean, you can, but Jerry's determination is Jerry's determination unless someone challenges it to the ZBA. 60 days to challenge it before he makes it.
Well, does he have the opportunity with a letter from the planning board to say, you're right, I was wrong, I'll change it?
He has that opportunity, you know, but generally that first instance is his decision. And that's what we
So what do you
go by
recommend
is his
That I
decision.
do at this point, table it, I need to talk to Jerry.
Can anyone challenge it? Like,
And-
can we challenge it just for the sake of consistency? Like, obviously the applicant doesn't. want to challenge
Yeah.
it.
Not in this case,
Right,
but
yeah.
other times I might want to. So
I mean, you could challenge it.
In front of the ZBA or challenge Jerry?
either way, what
challenge
would
goes
be
to the
most
ZBA.
expeditious is just filing a waiver
So
from
are-
a major
right.
subdivision.
So
need a-
I
Just
think
moving
here's
on.
the easy question. Are you fine with doing this as
Yes,
a
'cause
major and requesting the,
we still have to go through the public hearing from what I
Yes.
understand, one way or the other. I assume you're not gonna have neighbors.
not for a lot
that
line,
are
lot line you wouldn't have.
No, they're not at all.
Lot line doesn't require
Well,
public
but
hearing.
because this is for a subdivision, does it need to have a public hearing? That's where I'm
If it's
confused
determined a
about.
lot line, you don't need to make
Lot
a
line
Yeah, but
adjustments do
it's
not
not.
need.
regard.
The logic tree, it might be helpful if I explain it. It went to the code enforcement. It's exactly the same as projects that code enforcement has in the past, and I think in the opinion of this board correctly referred to us as major subdivisions.
No,
When-
referred to as a lot line improvement.
But this one, for reasons that escape us, was referred to us as a lot line improvement, which makes your life easier.
Right.
But it puts us in the situation of, we don't want to be in the situation, we don't want to be treating different applicants differently. So I think like Maureen's question and our question on the table is like, do we have some sort of obligation to kick this back to Jerry for the sake of fairness?
Because also,
Because
if you read to qualify as a lot improvement, it might not qualify, but it could easily qualify under the major subdivision.
Mhm.
A lot improvement is to qualify as a lot improvement. It must involve the addition of lands to an existing parcel or lot line. Okay. It needs to improve the ability of that parcel to comply with setback or other building standards. No, it's
No.
not improving anything. It
Well,
must,
it's making it larger.
that's not
No.
improving it, to
Okay.
comply with setback or other building
Yeah, plenty
standards.
of room to.
It's
Right.
completely
It's
compliant.
already. Go
Okay.
ahead. Keep going.
Increase suitability of the parcel for building development. It's perfectly
Already suitable.
developable. Add to the availability of open space. Open space there.
Mhm.
Adjust a boundary line located or produce a corrected deed map reflecting the same, and basically your deed and your lines are wrong. Or not reduce the ability of the lot from which the lot improvement parcel is taken or reconfigured to comply with the applicable development standards of the chapter. So you could say that what you're taking it away from has less developable room because you have the floodplain there, and you
Need the more
actually
space.
need the more space. The lot is better as it is because you have more areas that you could put the house in. So if you come back as a major subdivision
With a waiver.
with a waiver, it'll be pretty clean to be able to do it.
Okay.
It doesn't necessarily meet the criteria
Of a
of
lot.
a lot line.
For the lot.
What was the first one? What was the first element?
The
First one, addition setback.
which- setbacks,
I think that was the second one.
Addition.
improve the ability of the parcel to comply with setbacks or other building standards
You're
or,
saying note number one, involve the addition of land to an existing parcel.
right, well, so you have A1. Involve the addition of land to an existing parcel or lot line adjustment so as to, then you'd have A,
Oh, I
it's
see.
improving,
Got it, got it,
B,
got it.
it's
Okay, sorry.
increasing.
Not enlarging with itself.
Right.
You got the indents.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't, you
those
I know,
can't
I
see
know,
the
I
indents,
know.
but
as a major.
but as a major, it's a piece of cake.
Okay, so then do I request a waiver from a public hearing? Do I need, is it inevitable? I guess that's what I'm getting at. You know,
Public
do I
hearing, you
need to
have to.
provide you
No, you
with?
have to have-
As a
Yeah.
major, you'll have to have it.
Okay,
But there's still this question, there's still like
Right,
the
if they're willing to do
procedural
this,
logic. of-
If they understand and are willing to go under that way, we could ask Jerry to
To just
please
read.
look at this again. And I can talk with the building department about this odd provision in our law and
Yeah.
being aware of that. for future
Exactly.
zoning
And
applications.
if I recall, the ZRC as part of the pack that they submitted to the town board submitted language that would
Correct.
fix this problem.
Yeah,
So
that,
perhaps we can also send a letter to the town board urging them.
saying that maybe they should,
Further
I
that
think we
along.
have sent
Somehow
letters to
add
this
clarity,
effect
yes.
at least once in the past.
Mhm.
All right, so what I'm hearing,
Or further throw mud on it, I don't know.
what we should do is defer this. Have the applicant agree that we're gonna process this as a major subdivision,
Right, with Jerry's okay.
acknowledge it. With Jerry's okay, we'll talk to Jerry tomorrow. Also acknowledging that we're gonna have to go through a public hearing. We can't
Mhm.
waive that. We're gonna need to go through seeker. We can't waive that.
Okay, I
But
think
all
I
we-
already submitted the EAF
Yeah,
in anticipation of this
Yeah.
So
moment.
we'll be able to do that.
Thank you.
And we need a letter, so we need something from you acknowledging that it's a major subdivision.
Okay.
We have to go through a public hearing and asking for a waiver from all those other items in the major subdivision, which will be up to this board to decide if they do or they don't.
It'll be all
wanna do
bulleted and
that. If you
colon.
get that
and
all
whatnot.
to us, the deadline of 2 weeks before the next meeting of January. We'll take care of talking to Jerry. Then we ought to be able to accomplish at least the public.
Can
I'll
we
be on
set
that.
the public hearing for that, assuming that you'll have this information?
We don't have, we don't have a direct application. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Oh, wait, I may have submitted two. Actually, I may have submitted one
We'll
and
leave the
another
letter
because I
from,
wasn't sure which way this was gonna go, Nicole. It would be in your Google
So
Drive
you
or
were
perhaps in
hedging
my
your bets?
files.
Yeah, there is.
If that's what it all, I mean, it's really just swap out the front page of the application.
Zoning
It's
zoning
kind of the same
application,
thing.
two zoning application.
Oh, yeah, it says
one.
zoning app 1 and zoning app 2. So this, the first one
In anticipation.
is
I saw this.
This is
this
a lot
train
line. The
coming.
first one, app 2 is a lot line.
app 2, so app 1 is. What is app, wait.
Nope, they're both lot lines.
Damn it. Damn it. Oh, close.
Sorry.
You
What about tomorrow? If I get it in by midnight tonight, can we save a month on this? Seriously, I mean, it's the same application. It's the same
So no,
information.
we're not. Let's
in
just
different
wrap this
ways.
up realistically instead of.
We need the
I'm
waiver
trying,
anyway,
I'm
Heather.
trying,
We need the
all right.
waiver anyway.
So we need a
Okay.
letter from you
What the heck?
acknowledging the fact that it's a major
But save
subdivision,
the public hearing.
that you're gonna need to go through a public hearing.
Okay.
You can, in that letter, indicate those things you want waivers for, and you need to go back to Jerry and get another application.
I do or you do?
Determination.
no, we
We're
do.
just gonna review it.
No.
No, we're gonna do it. Nicole's gonna ask him to review that because at this
But
meeting,
we need the signatures of the applicant. on
No,
the-
no, no, it's just
No,
on the
he
referral
just
letter.
has
Okay.
to do an amended referral.
Okay,
If he feels that this would be
so we'll do that.
a major
And
subdivision.
you-
I'm gonna
Yeah.
write you a letter, a beautiful letter asking for waivers from the major subdivision
Chris
requirements.
Bond with a letter
of
and
mine.
stuff.
But they'll have to resubmit,
A zoning app.
Right, that's what-
Major
But
subdivision.
application.
they'll have to go through the whole
application needs to
process.
be changed.
We'll need the subdivision
Okay.
application.
We'll need the subdivision.
Yeah.
Oh, good idea.
Right,
Because
but they-
otherwise-
That was also a question.
zoning one, we're just gonna
Zoning.
ask him to
Okay.
amend his.
Right.
Got it.
So Heather, you're clear on what you have to do?
I am now. I
All right.
feel like we may have a template forward for other.
I do have a subdivision, but it says lot line improvement.
I think.
Wait. But it
Well,
is a
because I may have
subdivision,
said it was both of those, I didn't know which way to go.
but it is in fact a subdivision.
Do you want me to get it?
No, it says
I-
LOI.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I-
so
I
maybe
might
that's
have
what you were
been-
looking at. You just saw the lot line. on-
Well, there's
Yeah,
this one,
most of them are
application of
LOI.
zoning permitting classification.
Yeah, on the bottom it
Down at the
says,
bottom,
No,
code
on the bottom it
enforcement
says-
officer.
the bottom it
classification.
says.
Right, that's the
check
code
mark LOI.
enforcement.
But
That's
that's
not what,
Jerry.
that's Jerry,
here.
right?
And then there's this one. But is this isn't the right thing? Because these are.
No,
this is just-
ours is a lot line, a lot improvement or natural subdivision application. It's a different application. It says it right there, 2021-17 LLI.
Yeah.
So ours is, it's two different applications for us. They just check stuff. So it's a different application. It says.
So let's see,
Let's
if-
see what
Zoning.
Nicole has.
let's see if Nicole has
Let's see
another.
if Nicole
That's
has-
the
She
lot
may
line
have-
It's just
improvement,
misleading.
natural.
It's misleading.
Okay,
I'm okay with.
I like the idea of just submitting one.
I do too. I feel like this dance is a little.
I think perhaps applicants could also send a letter to the town board asking them to hastily fix.
I think that would be a fantastic
problem.
idea. If
Very
applicants would
much.
start
Yeah. Thank you.
sending letters to our town board to address the difficulties in the
Our
zoning.
language
I
has
will
been provided.
happily direct them in that
Because
that
we addressed this
direction?
in the zoning review committee,
Yeah,
and
I don't have
unfortunately,
the-
that has gone to the
But obviously
dustbin.
nothing's checked off.
I
on the
just have
top there
emails.
because It didn't come
Yeah.
through from the
You don't have
CEO. as a
Anyway, no,
subdivision.
not on me right now, but I
Right,
may have it
hang
in
on,
my,
Heather.
my
The
server.
attorney is
but
looking at the other piece of paper you submitted.
Maybe this is January or February.
That's just the name of the project.
I think
But it's a
regardless, we don't,
subdivision application.
we'll make it work one way or
Right.
the other.
But it says flat land improvement.
But it's very easy.
She's looking at something that we don't
Um,
have in our file.
It is
No,
on
it
the
is
user
there.
guide.
It is,
I just put it in there.
Oh, you just put it in now?
Yeah.
It wasn't on when you looked minutes ago.
Oh, here
There
it is,
now.
7:35.
That's not the route that we take
Okay.
initially.
That's
Right,
funny
because we were
my
doing that.
Computer says
Wait,
it's
so-
7:31, but you
I
added
don't
this. at
know.
7:35.
I don't have it on my
Okay,
person.
Yes, it's a subdivision application.
so they
Just-
did
just
actually submit a subdivision application. I think that given this, because Heather knows where she is.
So the only thing we're then missing is.
You just have to change
waiver
the- you need to
referral from-
change
Right, so I
Hang
think
on, let the attorney.
what
let the
I would
attorney
recommend
tell
is
Heather
that you
what
set
we
a
have.
public hearing for the January meeting contingent upon an amended zoning, what do we call it?
CEO referral.
Zoning
CEO
findings.
referral.
And a waiver request that we would have to act on.
Right, they'd have to, well, they'll have to put in the waiver requests and
All right,
otherwise
so,
we're just going through the whole.
So I'll make a motion that we set a public hearing for the January meeting, contingent upon receiving from the building inspector, better known as the CEO, a redone zoning finding as to this being
referral.
a major subdivision and not a lot line. So you got your public hearing contingent upon us essentially talking to Jerry.
And if you want, well,
It's up to.
it's up to them if you
part
want
of the-
waivers. If you don't send the waiver request, you're gonna have a long.
Yeah, we
I
need the
know,
waivers.
I'm gonna.
That we
I
vote
have
on
a
at the
few
next meeting.
templates.
anyway.
Right.
It's part of the
Right, we
packet.
can-
So for the purposes of the minutes, if I could just summarize,
Yes,
you need to agree that we're doing
yes,
that the applicant agrees we're doing major subdivision. You need to agree that we're gonna have to do public hearing.
yes,
You need to send us in that same letter, another letter, the waivers of the major requirements of the major subdivision. And we will vote in a second, assuming I get a second, and we'll call the vote. We'll set the public hearing contingent upon getting a new finding from the building department. How's that? Yes.
great.
Can I suggest that she changes the name from a lot line improvement to something
Yes.
else?
That was my question. Do I change the map title
Yeah, the map title needs to be changed to something.
Should have changed
to
to
Yeah, I was gonna say
revision
the
of
same thing. I was just pulling it
revision
up,
of
Give her the language for the map.
subdivision,
Whatever.
change title.
Whatever you want to
Okay,
say.
we'll talk.
We will.
Okay, so I have a motion on the
Seconded.
table, second by Patrick. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. Is that a no? Or no, nobody opposed?
Nobody's opposed.
He decided not to vote.
Here comes your time. not to
That's
say
so
anything.
helpful.
Okay, so
Nobody's
Mr.
opposed.
Griffin said, I apologize. This is what
It's a weird provision. in the law.
So because of you,
unfortunately,
we're moving forward.
Yeah.
Yes, actually.
it may take another meeting. or two. Or take another- another
Thanks, Heather.
All right.
Thank you.
See you
two.
soon.
I
Bye.
don't know, 4 seconds. Thank you for your patience. Okay. The next one is a public hearing for Einer Norman. Norman's here.
Yes, we are.
And
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello,
everyone.
So I think the board is familiar with this project. Let me just pull it up on my computer.
Hey. how are you?
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. The board reviewed this project previously. It was compliments again to the applicant and the applicant's surveyor or engineer. It was in good shape, so we're ready for the public hearing, but before the public hearing, unless the board has any comments, we do need to do seeker. And type it for seeker purposes. We do that, so.
Just hang
just
out.
sit
You're just
tight.
hanging out. Okay.
Seeker is an environmental review that we're required
Okay,
to
got
do
it.
by New York state law.
For the most part, it's pro forma. There are other projects that are much larger than yours where it's more than pro forma. There are things that we asked them to do as a result of the seeker review. So what I'm going to do is to read through 11 items, and I'm going to suggest to the board how we should type them. Anybody
First, type-
disagrees?
you have to type it first for seeker
Right, then you'll decide whether.
you have to type
do a
it
negative
first
bet.
as seeker.
Thank you.
So,
So I'm typing this as a type 1,
no,
Type.
a
unlisted.
unlimited,
I think you should have a motion to
uncoordinated.
type this
probably.
as an unlisted, uncoordinated.
Thank you. Is it uncoordinated or non-coordinated?
Uncoordinated.
Uncoordinated.
We're all uncoordinated.
So I'll entertain a motion to type this as unlisted, uncoordinated.
I will make that.
Second.
Maren makes more seconds.
And
All in
roll call.
favor?
Roll
Roll
call.
call.
Roll call, sorry.
So Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yep,
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky,
Yes.
Mr. Zarowski,
Yes.
and Chair Jones.
Yes. Is that whiskey in there? Because I could use some.
No, tequila.
I like it.
Okay.
if
all
that
right,
was,
so
the
now we
whole
can
thing was
proceed.
whiskey, I mean.
Now we can proceed. So will proposed action, will proposed action create a material conflict with the adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in a change in the use of the intensity of use of land? No or small impact. Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact. Will, number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact. 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact. 7, will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? No. Public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No. 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historical, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources, namely wetlands, or for example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna? I remind the board that Mr. Einer had extensive discussions with the DEC, and all of those, that correspondence is on file. So the DEC is fine with this. There is an impact on a small stream, but the DEC is fine. You know what you have to do if you're going to build a road there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a no or small impact. It's a small impact. 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? No or small impact. Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No or small impact. So there's on part 3, that was just part 2. In part 3, there's 2 boxes. One is that there are significant impacts, and the other one is that there are no or small impacts. So with the board's permission, I'm going to, do we need a vote on this?
Need a motion and
Okay.
then a motion.
I'm going to make a motion that this board is determined or has determined that based on the information and the analysis above, the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impact.
Negative declaration.
And that's a negative declaration. So I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
All right, we need a roll call.
Okay, Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Aye.
Mr. Grasso,
Aye.
Mr. Pinsky,
Aye.
Mr. Zarowski,
Aye.
Chair Jones.
Aye. I'll sign and take this. shortly. Just hold on to this. Sorry. Okay, so we've finished seeker. It's time to open up the public hearing. Do we have anybody who wants to make comments on the public hearing? Okay. So just quickly in the public hearing, please direct your comments to the board. There's generally no discussion between the public and the board. So it's just an opportunity for the public to point out items the board may not be aware of and that may in some way materially impact whatever decision that we're going to make. Please limit your comments to 5 to 7 minutes. We're flexible. And if one person has already made the comments, and you just want to summarize those, if it's a new comment, we want to hear that. So public hearing is now open. Mr. Henberry? Or Miss Henberry, Donna Henberry?
Hi, yes, I'm Tom Henry.
Or Tom Henberry?
Property up on Princess Lane, 6 acres that abut very close to your property there. I have a concern that there may be subsequent divisions there on that property. I don't know if that's possible. You're taking 5 acres out of 32. If you subdivide it further, you potentially have 6 subdivisions there. My water situation is tenuous when it's dry. My well is down 495 feet. My neighbor Terry Brown is down 500 plus. When we do have dry weather, our supply does on occasion run out. So, with the subdivision and the possibility of further subdivisions, I've got a concern with that.
Okay, thank you.
And I spoke with my neighbor, Terry Brown. He couldn't be here this evening, but he basically concurs with that as well.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then I guess I have Donna. Does she also want to speak?
No, we're just
We're together.
Okay. I didn't want to assume that, you're not supposed to. But, just a comment. I appreciate your comments, and anything that might be done with the property in the future would be this subject to the approval of this board. So I note, obviously, the board notes the water problems that you mentioned. But we have the project in front of us, not some project in the future. If there is a project in the future, it has to come back here. This is a minor subdivision, dividing the acreage into 32 acres into 2 lots, one of 5 acres, one of 27 acres. So
Well, a key thing also is, if it was to come back again,
It's a
it
major.
automatically is a major subdivision,
thank you.
because it is, even if it's just small right now, so any further subdivision would have a lot more scrutiny as to the water and the effects of the water. And I mean, one of the limitations of this property also is that there's a stream that goes all along the front it, so to even get in for one more house, you're gonna have to have the DEC say you can cross that stream. So if I was a betting man, I'd say it would be a difficult property for any further subdivision. But even if there was further subdivision, it would have a more rigorous review than just a minor.
Right. Just another comment, as of probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, I know there was a muskrat dam that was at the end of that, and where the building in that is going, that was actually a small lake that was in there. That had flooded, I don't know, nature took the dam, the muskrat dam out or whatever, but it was a substantial body of water that was back
And that's not there anymore?
there.
No,
No.
and it's already has the pad, the septic, the well. It's already been through the approval process for that part of it. So that,
Again,
That's
as I
over
said
and done,
before,
yeah, that's
we're
over
just
and done.
considering-
It's already
been
done.
done.
we're just considering,
Yeah.
Right, it's already been done.
we can only consider what's before us right now.
Exactly.
So, any other? That was it on the public hearing. Is there anybody else from the public who wants to speak? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Zorian, second, Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Come back next month.
we are done for tonight.
So I think I owe you Mylars or surveys so you can
Well-
sign.
Not yet.
Oh, not yet?
Just the public hearing's done. We have to make a decision next month.
Oh,
Explain that thing again.
Under New
New
York,
York State law.
In New
Okay.
York State law, they changed it.
Gotcha.
Any decisions that are made have to be published 24, at least 24 hours before those
Okay.
decisions are made. So we couldn't make the decision in absentia of the meeting, like last night or a couple of days
Right,
ago.
'cause we had to hear what the public
Had to
had
hear
to
what the
say
public had
before a
to say.
decision could
Yeah, I
be
got you.
considered.
So we will publish the decision, the decision will be written, we'll publish
The
it,
proposed decision. will be-
proposed decision. We'll publish it and we'll have you back next month. And the board will then make a decision.
Okay, so assuming that it all goes well, is there anything I can do proactively, like getting Mylars, everything stamped, so you can just sign if it goes well?
You can do all of that.
I can do all.
Well,
That,
you-
it's up to
There's
you,
some risk
but
involved.
There
there's,
could be a risk that you might have to have it changed. Correct? Or something could be
it's,
added.
it's a better
I would-
idea not to do it because there
okay,
will
fair
be,
Right
probably in
thought.
the
You have the right
decision,
idea.
there will be like a comment that we can write.
That I
Things
might
that you
have
put
to
on,
add.
you might have
Okay.
to add on the map and you want Bert to
You
be
don't
able
wanna
to
pay for
add
that.
I don't want to pay for
Okay,
it
no, I
twice.
don't. No, this is-
Like,
You have the
must-
right idea.
Right, like you must have a DEC permit for the stream crossing, this cannot be subdivided, it'll be a major subdivision, so you have
Yeah.
all that on there, so then you
And
only
then
have
I
one.
sign
Mylar.
that. Okay, so I gotta wait one more month.
We'll
And
see you
then,
next month.
once I do that, I can bring you the Mylars, they'll sign and I can go forward.
Correct.
Okay,
Sorry.
fair enough.
I have a quick question. Our letter says about right of way agreements in deeds. It's already.
I provided.
They have
Oh,
been
it's already-
provided
okay.
to Mary Lou to review, yeah.
Yeah. Everything, yep.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right,
Yep,
thank
thank you.
you.
We'll see you next one. Next one.
Next one.
All right, thank you, board, for all that input and advice. Next one is continued application, Frank Courtwright. Mr. Courtwright, I know is here. Heather?
Hi.
So I have a quick question for Mary Lou here. Now that we've posted this stuff, 24 hours ahead of time, do we have to read the findings or can we just read the decision? Because everybody's a chance technically to see it.
you can say as presented. You can, you know. You can move to.
And
That would
that'll-
help.
That would
That would
help
shorten it up.
shorten things up and move things along.
Because we've given them their time.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to connect the board for a recommendation in that regard. I just want to, Mr. Courtwright.
How are you?
So what we hear is, we're here to read the decision, make the decision.
Wait a minute, wasn't this already posted so we can like do?
Well, that's what you're
Yeah,
now.
that's what I'm
Do we
saying,
need a
That's what
motion?
Sharon is saying. So if
but we probably should read the
I
decision.
beg your indulgence for a minute, we just ask the board, is the consensus of the board that we not read the findings, I'll just refer to them, I'm gonna read the decision.
Yeah.
Is that the
Yeah.
consensus?
Support that.
Yeah,
I
you have
support
to,
that.
you do still have to move to accept the findings.
Yes.
Yeah,
As presented.
Yes.
Is there anybody on board that objects to not reading the findings?
I don't object. I support. I just want to say that in the future, there may be instances where we will
We will
still
want
want
to.
to read them. I just want
I agree.
to be.
On a case-by-case basis?
On a case-by-case basis, I don't want
All right, so Sam, you know what, would you make a motion to that effect? I like the idea if it's not.
to, I move that we,
You don't even have to do
Yeah.
that,
No.
just each time.
I just want to
It
say
doesn't have to
that
come up anyway.
I didn't want it to be like a default, we don't read them.
Set
Okay.
precedents.
That's fair enough.
Because unfortunately, it's
I'll
the
put that in the-
biggest complicated ones where we probably most
Gonna
want
need
to
to
read.
We
the
should read
14
the findings
pages.
then, but when they're
Easy
clear
ones that
like
we
this,
can
it's
skip.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Okay, so I do want to acknowledge that this findings and decision was already out there on the town's website for anybody who is interested in reading it. And I assume the board has either looked at it or is very much aware of what the findings are. And as Mary Lou recommended, we need to vote on the findings. So I'll entertain, well, let me just read the bold statement on page 3. Draft findings were prepared by the chairman and were read and discussed by the planning board in public meeting at the time of adoption. We didn't read them. Do we need to change this
So
now?
take
We
that
should
out,
edit
take
that.
that down.
Okay. We're prepared by the chairman, period.
Presented to the public and discussed, because we did discuss.
Oh, you didn't discuss the findings, you discussed what.
We discussed.
Well, we discussed
Why don't we just leave it, instead of being crafty, draft findings were prepared by the chairman, period.
What page you are? Sorry.
And adopted.
Page 3 is already in the end
Page
of the
three.
findings.
Adopted, these findings were adopted December 13th, 21 by the following vote. All those in favor of the findings?
Okay,
Ah.
you need a motion to adopt the findings as presented in a second, and then you can have the vote.
I move to adopt the findings as.
I'll second.
Thank you. Sam, Vaughn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So ordered. Okay. Now I'll read the decision. Resolved, the town of Rochester Planning Board grant minor subdivision conditional final approval permitting the subdivision of lands situated at 103 Rochester Center Road, Housing Park. The subdivision plan dated October,
You asked me, and I had it.
Heather, you were gonna
It's
give
the
me the date?
18th.
Dated October what,
18th.
18, 2021,
Yes.
and
I
revised.
hope. Well, it is the final plan, so it is the new map. So the first date of the final plan, October 18th, 2021.
So the first date is what?
Oh, wait, but you were going to give me language about the special use permit, and I don't know if that is on this map.
I gave that to you.
Did you give it to me before October, though? No, so it is not
No,
on this
it's not on
map.
the map. It's in the decision.
Okay. So that will need to be on the decision, and therefore the date, be a revised date.
So you're gonna.
Let's
give me
say
a-
it's tomorrow. Let's
All
say
right,
it's today.
So the subdivision plan dated October 18, 2021, and
Revised,
revised December 14,
yes.
2021.
That's in the future. You can't put something. that's
Okay,
happening
so
in the
today, I will
future.
have it to you by midnight, and then it will be true.
Okay, did
You're gonna
subdivision,
put it in, final map dated, whatever, and then in your conditions, you will have, this note must be added to the map. What you're approving is that map with the condition that the note, yeah.
all right, so the
Got it.
subdivision plan dated October 18, 2021
Okay.
is approved with the following conditions. I'm glad we have them here.
No,
think
these
the
things are
balance of
important
time is
because
too
somebody
much.
always
Seven
finds a
more.
problem with them later. so.
Okay, conditions of approval. Number one, all fees due to the town of Rochester involving this application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. Two, the applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The final plat shall show updated plan revision dates. Number three, here we go, Heather. The following plat notes shall be included on the recorded final plat map. One, any further subdivision shall be treated as a major subdivision under Town of Rochester subdivision law 125-12. And another note will be added, a special use permit / site plan shall be required before the issue of the building permits. Four, vegetation shall be cleared as shown on the final plat at the driveway entrance prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy.
Now, you don't need that as a note, or do you?
No, just do it.
It's already done. I think it already filled
I
out.
think it
It's
was
done
done.
too.
Yeah, already done.
No, just do it.
It's done.
Take that condition.
Thank
out.
you.
Take it out.
Take it out. And we'll renumber. Number four, new number four. Certification shall be provided indicating lot number one is capable of supporting on-site septic in the form of preliminary or final approval by Ulster County.
You have those approvals. You've had
Or a
those
sign,
approvals.
hang on,
Yeah.
let me finish.
Okay.
Or a signed letter by a New York State licensed engineer prior to the chair's signature of the plan. Plat, I'm sure we have them. Before I sign it, I will go through the file, make sure we have it. All right.
So if we're taking things out.
But there is a note on the, on plan as well.
Mhm. Exactly.
No, there's no. I need a certification in the file. We don't need anything on the map.
Well, the certification is that the Ulster County Pro, though it's not a septic plan, it's peak engineering septic plan. It
Right.
indicates there is a plan on file
Right,
for this site.
right. All right, so.
And you
it's in
have that, you also have that plan in your
Okay.
file somewhere. But I'm happy to reproduce it when I bring the Mylars.
All right, I think the question was, is it on the map? Is
There
that-
is a date saying that it was approved.
Okay, so it is on the map.
Yeah.
Is that your question answering?
No, I just confirmed that
It's
it's
on the
already
map.
stated there.
Yeah, it's on that. 5, all required local, county, state, or federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands, specifically local driveway permits. This conditional final approval shall expire 180 days from this approval date unless the final plat is resent and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods on application to a resolution by the Town of Rochester Planning Board. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants minor subdivision conditional final approval, permitting the subdivision of lands located at 103 Rochester Center Road, Hudson, New York, upon satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 through 3. Yes,
Yeah, that was
and
good.
grants the authority to the chair to certify that the conditions have been met and reviewed, signed and date the plat without further resolution at such time. Effective, the owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such approved plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, or such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law, Section 276. 2, the owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County certified copies of the filed plat and any other related documents to the Town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. I'll make a motion adopted December 5th, 2021 by the following vote. I'll make a motion that we approve the conditions of approval as just read. Do I have a second? Sorry. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay. That's your approval.
Yay, guys.
I'll sign this.
Okay,
And then I'll sign the maps of just all the notes that have been noted.
let me get that
need to be on the
note, yeah, and you have the peak engineering, but I can resubmit it again if you need it.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr.
Thank you. Thank you for all your
Thanks,
time.
Good luck.
Exactly. Don't build any, she gets to come back for a special use permit.
Okay. Number next on the agenda. Next. Salisbury, Salisbury and Demarest, are they here?
Yeah.
They don't. Okay, how are you? How about you?
Nice. You guys too.
Is that the,
That's the
Subject?
approval from the engineer.
okay.
Yeah, I couldn't get it here sooner.
All
Sorry
right.
about that.
So if everybody recalls, just to summarize, we is the time to make a decision. We had the public hearing last time, so now it's decision time. And as we did with the previous, I'm not going to read the findings since these have been published for at least a week or two on the town website. We do need to accept the findings. Here again, we changed the verbiage. Draft findings were prepared by the chairman. Period. Adopted December 13th, 2021. I make a motion to adopt these findings as so written and so published within the website of the town of Rochester. I'll make that motion. You'll make the motion. Mark makes the motion second.
I'll second it.
Aaron. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Findings are adopted today. And I'll read the conditions of approval. Resolved, the Town of Rochester Planning Board grants minor subdivision conditional final approval permitting the subdivision of land situated at 60/60 Airport Road, Accord, New York. The subdivision plan dated March 14th, 2021, and revised October 15th, 2021, is approved with the following conditions. 1, all fees due to the Town of Rochester involving this application shall be paid in full prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. The applicant, 2, the applicant shall present a final plat for signature. The final plat shall show updated plan revision dates and the DEC mapper forest overlays. The applicant, 3, applicant shall present a road maintenance shared driveway agreement duly reviewed and approved by the attorney for the town prior to signature of the final plan. Any cost of fees associated with such review shall be the responsibility of the applicant. Evidence of satisfactory shared agreements for ownership and maintenance of the shared driveway shall be provided in the form of deed covenants, plat details, and a road maintenance agreement prior to a certificate of occupancy being issued for any dwellings on lot 2. 4, the following plat note shall be included in the recorded final plat map. Any further subdivision shall be treated as a major subdivision in the town of Rochester subdivision law, section 25. B, or 2, subdivision shall adhere to TOR subdivision law 125-21 and 125-22, general site requirements and subdivision design, specifically 125-22, part 1, minimizing surface and groundwater disturbance. Part 7, minimizing disturbance on slopes greater than 15%. And part 8, minimizing natural resource disturbance. Number 3, the shared driveway. Again, these are all notes that have to be on the map. Shared driveway, proposed ingress, egress, easement zone shall be used in common by the owner of lot 1 and 2. All such easements shall be in effect binding on owners of said lots, heirs, successors, and assignees, and all future owners of said lots, their heirs, successors, and assignees upon filing of the subdivision plat in the office of Ulster County Clerk. And number 4, the planning board approves the use of a shared driveway as shown in this plat plan to service no more than 2 single-family dwellings via access from a shared driveway through the establishment of a right-of-way. The shared driveway shall be utilized by no more than a total of 3 single-family dwellings or lots, including that it has the lot it has access over. Number 5 in the decision. The applicant is encouraged to replace forest trees with native habitat and discouraged from disturb the Ulster County Habitat Core Lands, as well as the New York State DEC Hudson Valley Core Lands, forest lands existing in the rear of the proposed lots. 6, certification shall be provided indicating lot 2 is capable of supporting on-site water and septic in the form of preliminary or final approval by the Ulster County Health Department or a signed letter by a New York State licensed engineer prior to the chair's signature on the final plat. That's what you just delivered to us today. Okay. 7, all required local, county, state, and federal permits shall be secured for the current and future use of these lands, specifically local driveway permits. This conditional final approval shall expire 100 days from this approval date unless the final plat is presented and signed by the chair. This period may be extended for 2 additional 90-day periods, foundation 2, and resolution by the Town of Rochester Planning Board. The Town of Rochester Planning Board further grants minor subdivision and conditional final approval, permitting the subdivision of land upon satisfactory completion of the conditions of approval 1 through 4 and 4 parts of number 4 and number 6, and grants the authority to the chair to certify that the conditions have been met and reviewed, sign and date the plat without further resolution at such time. Effective approval, the owner shall file in the office of the Ulster County Clerk such approved plat bearing the chair's signature and any other related documents within 62 days from the date of signature, where such approval shall be deemed to expire without further notice in accordance with New York State Town Law Section 276. 2, the owner shall have the responsibility to return 3 Ulster County Clerk certified copies of the final plat and any other related documents to the Town of Rochester Planning Board within 30 days of such filing. I'll entertain a motion to accept this conditional approval.
I'll make that motion.
A motion. Second,
I'll second.
any discussion by anybody? One comment I'll make, Mr. Demarest, right? Is just take note of the conditions that need to be on the map and need to be performed. And if you or your surveyor have any questions about them, be happy to talk to them.
Okay, so
All right.
there is more things that has to be done to the map.
Well, in terms of the notes, there were four notes here.
Okay.
I didn't check the map yet.
Those were the same things that were sent in the letter to you
Yeah.
and Mr. Post.
Yeah, I spoke to him, he told me he, just a few days ago, he said that he.
As long as we made those changes and they get,
We
that
haven't
that's
looked
the
at the-
final
Oh, so
map
he
that's
hasn't given them to
submitted.
you guys yet, though, like he.
No,
So just, yeah,
we
we'll
don't
need
work
to
it.
drop off the final map.
Rick hasn't seen the map yet.
Okay.
See if they're on there.
I think the only one that there may be, and if somebody might want to correct me, we went through this already. It's the Ulster County overlay was not on the map from a month ago.
Okay.
So I think that is one of the ones that needs to be done
And
on.
then the Mary Lou has to approve the shared driveway agreement. That's key.
You saw the right of. You have the right of way agreement. right?
I know what I do.
Do you know whether or not you submitted the right of way
Oh, he did.
I did.
and it was reviewed by our attorney?
No, I have not reviewed it yet, but I will.
But it's-
But
it
that's
was sent,
okay.
yeah.
That's just some.
Well, John just needs to put those things on the map if he hasn't already.
So I make that note
Right, and then you're
to
set.
check and recheck, and again, if he has any questions, get back to me.
All right.
He did put something in there about the mapping of those forest lands, and I believe we found that to be acceptable.
All right,
There's
thank
there's
you.
some more work that has to be done with overlays, but that's his work to do now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? So you have it approved. I'll sign this, but the thing that you really need is the map, and as I said, you have a few more. It looks to me a few more steps, and if John has any questions. He needs to.
All right.
call.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty darn easy.
Yeah, you're good. The hard part's over.
Well,
Okay.
I'm so aware.
True.
All right, the next item on the agenda is John DeForest. Mr. DeForest here or his representative? Did I hear somebody say something?
Yeah, I saw him.
Just get my file.
Hi. How are you? Obviously. Ooh, the chair's warm now.
Okay.
We charge extra.
This is to remind us subdivision.
Yes.
Perfect.
The applicant subdivision of a 2.5 acre parcel. Make a 1.3 acre lot and a 1.2 acre lot. The parcels in all one zoning district, so it meets the zoning requirements. And Heather, I'm gonna let you describe, do we have copies of the map? Let me just distribute those. This has a little bit of hair on it.
Is that the one dated the 29th of October? by chance?
27.
I have 29 cents.
29, okay, good. That actually has buildings on it. Let's talk about that.
Heather, let's just wait a second. We distribute.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna make a few comments, because I said it had a little bit of hair on it, really. And what I meant by that, it's an existing lot, you can see it from the map. And everything you see on this map in terms of structure are already there. All right. And both lots are serviced by a single septic and a single well.
Not true.
All right, so Heather, why don't you describe to us what's going on?
You are correct in that there is only one well and one septic showing on this map. So yes, correct. You are correct, Rick, in what you have assessed from this map, but there is actually a septic system both for lot one. I just don't know where it is, but he says it's on the other side of the house from the well somewhere. So I wanted to get a little more precision to that before I pumped it on.
So in other words.
We would also
Yeah,
appreciate
so
that.
more precision.
We would like that as well.
Okay.
So in other words, you
And same
definitely.
thing with the well for lot two. There is a well, I think it's in the shed. I'm not entirely sure, but the owner has told me that both lots have their own separate well and septic. But that is not. true.
Okay, so you're definitely coming back.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This is subdivision. What else would I think?
The other,
Go ahead.
well, the other question that you're probably getting to is, this is from Mary Lou.
Mhm.
the trailer house that's gonna be in the flag lot. The long skinny.
The
Mary
tiny
Tree
list.
Furniture.
Yes.
The one, it is, if we let this happen like this, we would be creating
Precedents.
a so it's non-compliant, it's not set back enough.
How is that?
Garage,
Because that red line is the setback,
Right, but it's all,
But it's a
that's already in
pre-existing
existence.
condition.
Yeah,
We're
but
not
it-
creating it.
but if
It's
we
already there.
Thank you.
And
make
it's
it in
already
this, this is a
non-conforming.
good question, if you then subdivide, so
Mhm.
that means you could go do a gazillion non-compliant things on your lot, put everything in wrong, and then say, hey, I want to now, and never have to follow the code. It seems like we're,
Well,
Well, how,
it depends whether that's a pre-existing or whether it was a violation
You
where
couldn't
the
get a
code
permit.
enforcement officer, right. If you put a house up right now and
Doesn't have
it
a
violates
permit.
the setback,
That's a no-no.
Jerry's are not getting a permit.
Or I'll get a fine.
And if they don't go to Jerry's, they're gonna go to court.
Right.
So
so we
if
are,
it's a pre-existing, non-conforming because of the setback, that continues.
yeah, that was my question. I didn't know if it could continue
Mhm.
as it was without changing stuff, or then if you then subdivide,
No,
that's
it's
okay.
it's still okay.
Okay.
Yep.
That was just a
Yeah,
full-
And there's-
Yeah, they're making a further
I have
non-conforming.
a
They couldn't make it
follow-up
further.
question.
Right.
are we gonna end up, follow-up question, are we gonna end up some kind of comments on the maps that is kind of grandfather? No, that violation?
I mean, I do have an asterisk on the zoning requirements, the pre-existing non-conforming aspects of this application, so.
So there will be documented somewhere.
It is documented already.
Yeah.
It's on the map. I mean,
No,
it's
on the map,
also,
it's
shows that it's a violation.
It's graphically,
Shows
but-
as-
It's in the notes.
No, it's in the notes.
Lorian, if
And I
you fold
also
that
have it-
over, You'll see it in the notes side, I believe.
Here, I have a little asterisk indicating.
Also, the new, I think, to your point, if the new line that was being created caused the setback violation, that we couldn't.
Right, they'd have to get a variance.
Then you get a
or-
variance for.
But the new
Yeah.
one quite conveniently down to the inch. turns the-
Absolutely.
There will be no flower.
So you
boxes
understand the
put on
directive
front
I
of
got
that
from
back-
the plant.
Sure, yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, if you notice,
Exactly.
so when I
No
first looked at,
ornamentation on that corner of that house
No
is to be
I want
allowed.
it to be very clear.
when I first looked at this, I wanted to also,
You did.
If we need to switch it
Select
over,
that
I
one.
will. I mean, that is,
I have a question for the attorney. In the event that there is only one well and one septic.
Not
Because in the event that there is,
okay.
hypothetically, is that true?
I would throw
Yes.
this back at him and
Yep.
say, I'm not bringing this to the planning
that's,
board.
I don't need-
Okay,
then we're
just
all
say-
Or
set.
they
Because
could,
my
with
question
being
is how-
pre-existing, they could do
A shared-
shared septic and shared well agreements, which I'd have to approve and which would have to be.
So here's my
filed
question.
with
How
the
can you
map.
have a shared well and septic agreement with yourself? Because you own the both
These
lots.
are all
the
rented.
Same thing with like a
Property.
road maintenance agreement, I would assume.
A road maintenance agreement with yourself?
With lot one and lot two,
Yeah,
and you just
between
call
the
yourself
lots.
the owners of lot one and lot two.
Okay, so that would carry along
Sorry,
with the
I'm
D,
not
with the
aware.
title then, that would go,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have to be,
okay.
it would have to be.
So we're not gonna go down that road, but
No.
you're thinking that we have
Yeah,
a,
and we have done them in the past. It's been a long time since
Okay.
we've had
Maybe
one,
more.
but sometimes you get that with some very old properties.
Any other questions? All right.
Go find a
Heather,
well and
let's
septic.
go find
another well and
Okay.
Well, so I'll submit a preliminary plan with more meets and bounds and the well and septic.
We'll have some more fun next time.
I suspect you may be requesting some waivers from things like and
the lat line
I
is
think
as flat as it
because this
comes.
is a minor, do I need to have that?
yeah, so I'm just suggesting you may
Okay.
want to review and request
Okay.
waivers as part of your next submission where relevant. I know it's a very flat lot without
Okay.
any,
Yeah, you might not
It's all
have one line.
Okay,
but like anything that we can waive that
Yeah, you're right.
is not germane to this.
so would it be more timely for me to just put one topo line on there or to ask for a waiver that you then have to approve and then
I
it's
mean,
another
that's up
month?
to you. I don't think there's.
I don't
any
think you'll get a
issues-
line. It's literally,
There's no issues with topography on this lot,
Yeah.
but.
I don't think there's anything else to put on there, so I might
Yeah,
just
that's
do
fine.
like some
That'd be
spot
easier.
elevation and just call it a day on that.
Yeah, there may be other things.
And
Okay, I'll take
any
a
other
look at
comments
those
by
to
the
make
board?
Check if it's, I don't know, like behind, if you ag data.
It's, you got, already got it.
They've already got it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
the meadow is behind.
That's what I thought.
Go anywhere, you're up next again.
Am
All
I
right,
again?
next one, Heather, is Chromestone.
All right, let me go get that.
We're gonna do this one right this time.
Does everybody remember Chromestone?
Yes, this is just a natural. subdivision.
Yeah. Hey, nice.
That's it.
Today,
Very
that's all we're
nice.
talking about.
Natural subdivision, that's it. We don't
Right
have
down the
anything
road.
else.
Done.
Approved.
Exactly.
Bye.
I like this new and improved.
Open our mouth.
You do, right?
So this is the latest and greatest.
All right, so Heather, why don't you
Not true.
tell us what you're doing?
So we had lots of back and forth about the best way to handle this. I guess this would be the best way to show it. And what we want to ultimately get to is to, right now, the land is crosses Upper Whitfield, and it is 7 and a portion on one side and 25 on the other. So what they want to do actually is not just subdivide along the road, but add some land from this area to this area. So we needed to do this as a two-step process in order to to avoid this whole major subdivision situation that we've been dancing with all this evening. So what we've decided to do after talking with Mary Lou at length was to first just subdivide the property into proposed lot 1 for the lands on the side of Woodfield Road that has the existing house. And then to separate that off from the lands on the other side of Woodfield Road, which has the barn. And we're going to file that, and then I'm also going to file an application to the planning board to revise the lands that have the barn. So there'll be 2 applications coming towards you. One is a natural subdivision, one is a lot line improvement. Neither one of them are major subdivisions. We went back and forth because this land, ultimately, these owners want to own this land. But because of the way the code is written, just to do a quick lot line adjustment with this property is not possible because it ends up throwing it into the major subdivision clause. So
I
what they're
see.
gonna
So
do
we're
is
just
just
doing-
create this lot and they are gonna purchase it and then they will have 2 lots.
All right, so let me summarize what I just heard, what I think.
This is a
I
natural
understand.
subdivision.
It's a subdivision, the end.
First thing that we're doing tonight is the lot line, is
No.
essentially a natural
A natural
subdivision.
subdivision.
Not the subdivision.
And that's all we're doing tonight.
Yep.
Once you get that, you need to reapply
Yep.
for a lot line adjustment.
Right.
And then
Yep.
you'll be back presumably in January with a lot line adjustment.
Yep.
So I'm assuming that by next month, well, since it's lot line adjustments, do we need to do the posting of 24 hours ahead of time? And because it's certified, I'm not sure how this whole new law plays into this.
We were,
Still need a public
no.
hearing.
We
no
don't need the
idea.
24 hours.
No public hearing if it's a
Lot
lot
line.
line.
Or a natural.
So we just need
subdivision.
to approve the natural now.
Yeah,
Yes, and
And
it's,
so
it's
I
in there.
yes, and we can do that without the.
Okay.
I have a certification to read.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
This is a map, a little bit unclear. for me here. Why is the sided lot should continue or why it's? kind of-
Oh, you're right. This should not be heavy there. That just
Okay.
looks like you're right. That map fragment, that line fragment is there.
I thought that was the.
Yeah, no, remove.
All right, so I have a certification that I read tonight, that we can approve tonight.
Do we need to read certifications or can we just say we vote to certify?
Yeah.
That's it.
It's natural.
On a natural, I think.
Until we just say we make a
we can
motion
do
to
it.
certify.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to certify the
Is
natural
the,
subdivision.
is the name on the map correct? Says sketch.
Well, then I assume I'm going to put final plan and that's what I'm gonna put in front of you for the signatures.
Shouldn't it be a natural subdivision?
This should be a natural subdivision.
Yeah, it is. I'm just saying that the title of the
title.
map.
Title, yeah, the title should be.
Natural subdivision.
should
It
be-
says a sketch plan
Yeah,
showing natural
Short natural
subdivision
subdivision.
of,
You have to
Yes.
update the
Okay.
date.
and so
Sorry,
then
I
I'll,
didn't see the fine print. I'm sorry.
got it. And then so
I
I'll
thought it
change that
wasn't
to
on there.
final plan
Great.
showing blah, blah, blah with a new date.
My
And with that
apologies.
adjustment.
No worries.
Too zoomed out.
With that adjustment,
It's hard on
um,
these, yeah. It's hard on them.
I'll sign when you, all right. But we
I will
need to
get to you
make,
shortly.
so make a motion to certify the subdivision for Chromestone.
With the given,
Kevin,
Have changes.
Kevin Meehan, is this the official name? Kevin Meehan, doing business as Chromestone LLC?
And my wife, I wouldn't want to leave her out, but yes.
So what I just read, is that correct?
Kevin Meehan is correct.
Okay.
Didi
Doing business-
Goswami
Yes,
is
because I
also
do
part
just
of it.
have, well, I'm not sure who's
Beg
the
your pardon.
signatory
That's
for
me.
the.
Okay, so that is
the
correct.
LLC.
That's correct.
Okay, so as long, so I'll make that motion, certify the natural subdivision for this property.
I'll second.
Mark seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So you have your certification. Sign the certification. Here we go, sign the
Yeah.
certification, and Heather, whatever adjustments that we made, Dorian pointed out some adjustments to the map. And then the adjustment to
The title.
the title. I'll sign that. And then you're on your way to the next step.
Yes, and then I'll be back next
Okay.
month.
Follow the yellow brick road.
See you next month.
stay
Okay.
there,
Thank you.
stay there, Marissa.
Just
Thank
stay
you.
there.
And you don't go anywhere.
Well, I'm gonna go grab the big file.
You're a pretty good one. Thank you.
I'm gonna request that we have a 5-minute,
Yeah.
if that's all right with the board.
Makes sense.
We're retired, not retired, we're
Go on.
Muted.
Whistle didn't know.
We good?
I think so. Hold on. Yeah, we're
Right.
good.
Call the board back in, back, wait.
Okay, okay, okay.
There's 6 people watching.
We're at,
I know, I literally, it's probably stuffed in one of the.
I hate it when that happens.
See, I literally just had it.
There's
So it's
people
not
that
fun.
really do not have a life.
Mine, but it's.
One of them.
Oh, that's fine.
You guys don't have a spare copy of my memo on maladjusted, do you? You got it?
I have a copy.
I have a copy. Marked up in
No,
colors.
Heather needs a copy.
Okay, I'll call the board back
But the
in
thing is,
order.
like, I have a copy.
Do we have? Now it's Esther?
Right
The
there.
latest,
I have this one here if anybody needs. I'll trade you one Liz Oxelin, Axelrod letter for.
December 5th.
We want the December one though, not the November, right?
December
I'm
5th.
looking for the one that just came out today.
Yeah.
I literally just
That one.
Today?
Or Friday.
December 10, I know.
December 10. Oh,
Me too.
that's cute.
Okay,
It's fine.
so Heather, do you want to give us an update and then I'll launch into the things that I have? I'm
Well,
sure the
we were-
board has comments.
I'm hoping we're in the final stretch here. We got a list of notes from you guys about what you wanted to see on the maps, which I put verbatim on the front page. After discussions about protecting the environmentally sensitive lands on the property, we had come to the agreement that we would put a 100-foot buffer on the existing wetlands, which bumped the area up to nearly 30 acres, I believe. I think I have it stated in this letter. So I think that meets most of the criteria for everybody here. In other minor tweaks I did, one, I put in this 100-foot buffer, ended up moving the house from lot 1 up a little bit just to make sure it stayed out of the buffer area. The corner was in there. It didn't really change the limit of disturbance at all because I just manipulated some other things there. This one was as it stayed. I shifted the driveway a little bit so it landed on a more level spot. But essentially, again, the limit of disturbance is about the same for lot 3. So everything here should have, I also included the grades for the driveways. So you can see that one of the requests that was presented was for a grading plan, but as you can see from the driveway here, none of the cuts are greater than 2 feet. And this being a 2-foot contour map, it wouldn't even show on a profile plan. And you can see that all the grades are under 10%. There's a one bit here where it hits to 9 and then drops to 6. They would just level that off and push the dirt down to where it would be a little more.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in for a minute, I had this conversation with the owner at my office. He was just checking in about, do we need any engineering review? And I explained to him why not.
Okay,
Like, there's
great.
almost no grading, and that's kind of the way I wrote up the memo. The review is to say, grading is so minimal, you really don't need anything. And so my whole section B grading stormwater, based on review of the plans and given the site terrain and scale of development, no further review is needed. So
Okay.
because the driveway, it's on it, profile.
It was a
Kind of
profile, so
illustrated
yeah.
how little fill there is.
Okay, so if I could just summarize what I took out of
My
material
rambling
you
thing.
sent us and then the review that Liz did on the 8th. So you sent us what you think was the 5th. Maybe it was the 8th and Liz did it on the 10th, did the review on the 10th. So the limited disturbance lines are all there. I think we went back and forth. They were all there. The board wanted those in there. The remaining wooded areas in the back, they're all marked. If you can see them there, the wooded markings are there, what's wooded, what's not wooded. The 100-foot setback, you already talked about that, Heather. The voluntary setback wetlands, that's there. The core habitat lands are marked, that's in the darker cross hatch. Those are marked on the map. We have emergency turn-offs, that was noted in one of the letters. Rattlesnake barriers, Those are there. They were also part of the notes on the map. That's during a particular period of time when they're out in order to prevent encounters. There was a comment, Liz, that I couldn't find it on the map, marking of the stone fences on lot 3.
Oh, because before we'd asked that stone walls be marked to be retained. And
Marked
the
to be
only
what?
place that stone walls be marked to be retained
Yes.
wherever possible. And the only place that shows I see stone walls on here is along this driveway. And it looks like they could build the driveway without doing anything with stone wall, so it could be
Right.
retained, that's all.
Yeah, so everything, if it doesn't say proposed, it's existing, and there's no stone wall to be removed anywhere. The stone walls that are there, are stone walls that will continue
Was
to
that
be
your
there.
comment, Liz? That-
The
or was
comment
You
was,
couldn't see it on
what
the
I
map?
usually do is say, all right, we've got wooded areas, so you're marking the wooded areas, and then the subsequent comment would be, can you please, label areas that are wooded areas to remain? And I did the same thing with stone walls. So that's all. I'm
So
doing.
is the map satisfactory in yours?
Well, I mean, on the wooded areas that would remain, I was actually hoping to see that in the areas. It's kind of like what we did on CUSAC.
I was gonna
We showed, this is the existing tree line, and then this is the tree line to remain. And another way of handling that would be, for example, you've got existing tree line here on lot 3. It's pretty obvious outside the limited disturbance that in the limit of disturbance, you're gonna have
Some tree removal.
some tree removal. So the existing tree line to remain would just kind of go around that.
If you want me to put that in there, I just feel like it's kind of clear from whatever's within the limit of disturbance to be removed. My point being, this is gonna be a Mylar, black and white in the county, so I try to keep the number of lines and
Yeah,
labels
and
to
that's
a
why
minimum if possible.
Labeling
But
is
yes, if
nice.
you want
Yeah.
me to put,
Why don't you do that?
Yeah. And then the same thing with the stone wall, just even a call out pointing to it, existing stone wall to remain.
Okay.
That would be easy.
That's good enough.
And then I have 3 comments that I wanted to discuss with the planning board, because I'm not sure we still need them to be addressed. You want to go ahead,
Sure,
share
no,
summary, and I'll come back?
I probably have them here, but go ahead.
Okay, so in my memo, review letter, December 10, 2021, comments number 3, 4, and 5. There are comments, for example, 3 is, consider delineating areas to be preserved in the rear southwestern end of the site to protect an extensive wetland, federal ACOA, ACOE wetland, forested steep slope areas, farmland of statewide importance for habitat areas. And, if you don't think those areas need to be delineated because, for example, the home sites are located up close to the road, proposing anything back there, you could just not have them say anything back there.
So my comment there is that in Heather's letter back said that we don't need to do that because we are going to put, this cannot be further subdivided because the owners said that they were willing not to further subdivide.
Agreed.
But what you wrote down is will not be further subsidized, further subdivided without planning board approval. That's not right. Everything has to get planning board approval. It's either no subdivision, period, point, not planning board approval, that they voluntarily restrict their land.
right.
You take
but-
out that planning board approval because every subdivision needs planning board approval. That's a rhetorical statement that is. no point to put
I
there.
understand that, but we've had conversations about that before with what if, say, the person who owns lands that are now Castillo, and they purchase these 2 lots, and they may want to reorganize but it would be classified as a major subdivision.
Or maybe,
because this is
no,
a
because
subdivision, then
once
they
again,
can't do
that is the environmental constraints of this property. You either mark it as a conservation area in my feeling, or yes, they can't do it. That's right. Castillo or whatever can't buy it and can't redo it because constrained property with a lot of wetlands and a lot of environmentally sensitive area. So no, you can't.
But again, what say Castillo wants to come to you, wherever this person is, or wherever these people are, whoever property wants to absorb this and or the
What
lands,
happened?
then there would be an environmental review, and then you could bring up all of these constraints with the sensitive ones with that applicant. But this applicant here doesn't have any action proposed for any of the lands. And there is a huge buffer between where they're proposing development and where the sensitive lands are. I feel that they have given up a lot already with this
They haven't given
application.
up anything. They're putting the houses exactly where they wanted to put them.
They are not dividing this any further
All right,
than
so I
they need
think,
to.
I think the, question, from what I'm hearing from.
And there's
uh,
two
member
other comments.
panelists, what member Lindstrom is asking for voluntary, no fault for the building in that area. We did with Cusack, we were more formal in terms of the conservation easement. So that's,
Conservation area.
that's the either, the or is, the board says you can't do anything back there, but I don't believe, Counselor, that we can say that.
Yeah, well, the question is, I think what I heard Martin say was that you had said that the applicants were willing to voluntarily, like, put a restraint on that there'd be no further subdivision.
Right, but again, like we had approached this with some of the other applications, we don't want to put a deed restriction on this property that says these people or those people want to have
Okay,
this
so that's not
land.
a voluntary.
It's not voluntary.
They're not planning on doing
Okay,
any
we were under the
subdivision.
impression
This
that
parcel
Right.
in
We're
the,
offering.
They were
voluntarily
offering.
saying,
yeah,
we don't want to
No.
further subdivide. and
Mary
that
Lou is right.
we'll put
Right.
that, we thought that they were saying they would voluntarily
Restrict
put
it.
that restriction on there. But
they
you're
are
saying no.
interested in no longer doing any further subdivision
But
of
that's
this
just, that's
land.
that's
That's their
hypothetical. They
intention,
could,
that's
they
not-
They're
could
not
sell
willing
it.
to put it
in
in the deed.
Not willing to put it, in, so that's irrelevant. If, because they could sell this in 2 seconds, the next person who buys it will want to do something. So we're looking at land use, not the people. You know
But
that better
again,
than
if
anybody.
somebody else was going to purchase this and then redevelop
Then
it,
we
they
would-
would have an
They-
environmental review where
But-
you would
right,
address
but
all
we're-
of these
but We're just talking
issues.
at cross purposes. The
Right.
question is like, are the applicants willing to voluntarily restrict in the deed future subdivision? It sounds like the answer to that question is no. But they are willing to say that we,
They
while we are the owners, will not, but
Yeah,
they're
but
not
it's,
actually
but
willing. to
But that's
put it in the-
irrelevant.
Right,
Well,
I agree. I
and the
understand.
reason why this comes up is because of this provision in the code where if you put no further subdivision at all ever, that means you can't do a lot line because this has been subdivided. So
Right,
they
but
don't
that's a
want to
reason-
do that.
That's the reason why they don't want to do the thing that we thought they wanted to do. So it was just a misunderstanding.
Right.
We don't
So
have the
I'm not
authority to impose that.
So we don't have the ability to impose it.
Right. So
Except,
Okay.
except.
That's-
But we do have the ability to say that we want it to be a marked conservation area.
So all
Oh,
these
do we have
comments,
ability-
3, 4,
wait a
and
minute,
5
Liz,
address
wait-
this.
wait a minute, Liz.
What?
Counselor, do we have the ability to insist that this
I was
be a
gonna
conservation?
say, yeah, I don't think you can, again, ask for it. That's what we did on Kuzak. We
Right.
asked for it and they said, we'll do it.
We don't have the ability to
We
insist on
can't.
it.
There's nothing in our code that says we can, look at the size of these lots.
Yeah.
All right, so I think
I
that
don't
we're in a
think we
position
can-
where the note's gonna say no further subdivision. And that's it.
No, it's
Since
gonna
they're
say
not
what-
willing to
No, it's
go.
gonna say without planning board approval.
Which is irrelevant right off
It doesn't
because
say anything because
doesn't
if they
say
want to
anything
subdivide
because-
it.
you can't do a subdivision without planning
That's a-
board approval, period. It's,
Right.
it's
So that note
it's a
just wouldn't even
circular
go
loop.
on.
Okay, so Liz, your next note.
So basically, it's all in the same vein. If you look at the top of page 2, my number 10 letter, 3, 4, and 5 are all talking about what's intended for conservation area as far as restrictions on clearing or development use, what instrument would be used, easement or deed restriction.
Okay,
Number 5, in later reviews of subdivision, it's recommended the plan notation be included to describe protections for these areas to refer to any corresponding easement or deed.
okay,
restriction.
so we've established for better or for worse. And some of us don't agree with that, others, it is what it is.
Well, they
Yes.
could, I mean, we don't,
They-
she's saying they won't do it.
They won't do it.
But they
So
could.
that's the end of that. Unfortunately or unfortunately, I mean, the point here.
So,
So, wait a minute, you're number 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, and
We're
the
done.
only other thing I thought that would be helpful would be to put, just to put notation on there that says existing wooded area to retained. That's all it
Existing
says.
what area?
Existing wooded area to be retained on the other side of.
This way.
any
Is that
limited
satisfactory?
disturbance.
Well, I do have the habitat core area. Do you want me to put the note that we had on the burn application about how disturbance in the core area is to be limited? I
Yes,
mean, that's,
sure.
Okay.
That'd be great. Good
I think
solution.
Liz is asking for something different, just like
Right, yes.
Yeah.
saying that outside the limit of disturbance, all the woodland.
but that kind of incorporates these trees
And
over
I am-
here, these trees over here, whereas, I mean, we're really concerned about these lands up here, right?
I
So-
actually, I agree with you on that, Heather. I just think that Liz was saying something different than what you were saying.
Right.
It
All right.
was, it was about showing, just making
Yeah.
a note on the outside of it, area to be retained. That's it.
Okay. Anything
Area
else?
to be retained.
Yeah, so to make it clear, so the applicant certainly doesn't want to say no subdivision. But does applicant certainly doesn't want to say, they don't want to establish conservation area?
No, they
Yeah.
don't want to go through anything quite as elaborate as what the.
And we don't have the ability to
QSAC.
say.
No,
you
I
can do
understand
it.
that.
So we're done.
I just want to
Well,
confirm.
the conservation area isn't elaborate.
But
The
it
conservation
is.
easement is elaborate.
Well, no,
It's
we
two
still had
entirely
to.
different
Well, the
things.
conservation is deed restricted. Like when we've done them, they've been deed restricted or else it's
So
just meaningless.
you're distinguishing between the Cusack, what we did with Cusack, everybody's familiar with that, versus what we're doing with the conservation subdivision. This is not a conservation subdivision.
No.
The Cusack was voluntary. I think we've established a couple times, they're not willing to do the voluntary Cusack easement.
Right,
Is that correct?
that is correct.
Stop,
Not
full
easement,
stop.
area,
Okay.
Area.
area.
Thank
Use- It's
But
gotta
an
be
area
area.
still has
Area or
restrictions.
easement.
Well, an
Okay,
easement is
all right,
different
full
than an
stop.
area.
They don't want to do it.
It is, but an area still has restriction.
right.
Yeah.
They do not want to restrict that.
Anything
Well,
else?
it's not that they don't want to restrict it necessarily, but it also
Well, could
involves
we ask?
meets and bounds. No, because they don't want to keep it, we keep asking them for more things and more things and more things. And here we are almost 11 months later, like,
So the answer is
no, this
they
is
don't
what
wanna-
they'd like. These are 20-acre lots on a 60-acre parcel. They're putting 30 acres in protected lands. I mean,
They're
I
not
really
protecting
think
They're not putting it
anything. They're not
protected.
putting anything in protecting
All right, look,
anything.
hey,
they're
guys,
adding a voluntary 100-foot no-build buffer to wetlands. That's adding another 15 acres of land that that the Army Corps is already protecting.
all right, look. I think we're done with the
Okay,
discussion.
thank you.
I would prefer that we were able to say you have to do it because it's Habitat Corp. We don't have that ability, for better or for worse.
I'm
So I
happy
think
to put
whether
that
we,
note,
whether we
though.
want it, I'm
I'm
sorry,
happy to put that note that the planning board would prefer
we would prefer,
restrictions.
it's just
Yeah.
that it's not, you can't.
It's not enforceable, but.
So I just want to end it. All we're doing is, pardon me, circling the wagons for something that I think we all would like to see, but we don't have the ability to do it with our code, and so I think we're done.
So there's no
Yeah.
further reason to address comments 3, 4, 5.
That's correct.
That's what I'm, because I need to
Very,
know for my
very
next week.
astute. Thank you, Liz. Was there anything else, Liz, on your?
I don't think so.
I have one more thing.
They're
Okay.
pretty minor comments that remain.
It was a comment from our fire department. We have a letter from the fire department, and the fire department said they would like turnarounds. I think we should do what the fire department said.
Oh, I didn't get that letter, so.
Fire on the
Yep. So if everybody goes into their house.
Well, there is the turnaround for
Yeah.
the lot one. I could bulk that out so it could be a full 20
But there
by
was
70
a
foot.
comment that
Yeah, but isn't the driveway good enough?
on lot 2, there
That's
was
what
a
I was
comment that was
Thinking this is
sufficient.
12, they might
at
want it 20 feet wide.
Somewhere, recording again.
Okay,
Lot
guys,
two.
I just read what's in the, okay?
Could you read exactly what it says, Mark?
Here's his usual preamble. Planning Board Chair Rick Jones, REPB 2021-16 subdivision Malatesta, Denalucci, Biaggi. The fire department is tasked with blah, blah, blah. With that said, the district officers of the Accord Fire Department do have some questions and concerns in reference to the above application. The concern that comes to fruition is the lack of turnarounds in the driveway that provide access to the 3 dwellings. New York State Fire Code 503.2.1 states. And dead ends more than 150 feet shall have an approved area for turning around fire apparatus. Those access roads must also be a minimum of 16 wide and 13.6 high. Thank you for your time and consideration. So it is not wide enough, the shared driveway, because it's 12.
When did we get that letter, Mary?
That letter is in
Dated
there
the
and it,
19th.
November 19th, it was put into our file.
I don't think I ever received that, but I'm happy to expand that to 16 feet on the filed map. I mean, we could, again, there's no grading issues, so if we need to just make it a little
Okay.
lot
So
better.
you will include that.
And is there adequate turnaround? I don't,
Is that just for the shared at 16 feet?
Yes.
yes,
So Maren, what do you recommend with it? Do you think there should be a pull-off? In addition to the two?
no, it isn't pull-offs. This is, he's talking about turnaround. The pull-offs were there when he saw the plan.
Oh, I see.
Because there's some confusion as what's shared and what's considered common, so. if there's
Isn't
two people,
This
and
is
the
shared, this is a shared driveway.
Right, I'm
That's
talking
a
about
shared
if 12 or 16, if it's just two people, this portion is not shared.
We consider it a shared driveway.
This is not shared. That
Right,
there's no
up to
reason for
here's-
lot one
up
to
to
go
here is
beyond
shared?
here. Yeah,
That's shared up to there.
yeah, exactly. From here to there, it's shared.
But these guys need a right of way over
But it
there.
says 50 feet.
Council, I have a I have a question about the letter because it's saying in the last sentence, the concern that comes to fruition is the lack of turnaround in the driveway that provide access to 3 dwellings.
Yeah, we also.
You
don't
misread
have
it.
We
that.
only have-
You don't have that.
You
And this
Correct.
map is dated the 5th of December, so he didn't
Well,
receive
this
this.
is November
where-
19th is when we
Right.
received this.
Right,
Right,
so
so
then
we
he
haven't
didn't
seen
have
this.
labels
He
saying.
has the old one?
Yeah.
But he never had one that had 3 houses
Three,
coming
yeah,
off of one
You
driveway.
misread the
He
drawing.
always
Yeah.
had the one, he just wrote it wrong, guys.
Yeah.
He-
We can clearly, the
Well,
part that,
maybe he read the map wrong.
He could have the
That's
map
what I'm
wrong,
saying.
but he always had, because.
Right, because there was always
Yeah.
this.
There was always
and
that,
this.
exactly.
That's never changed.
part that's shared should be 16 feet.
Right.
And there should be the end of the driveway for on lot 2. It should just be labeled that like, this is the way you're gonna. turn
There's
around.
enough room to turn around.
Cul-de-sac, something.
I mean, that
Cul-de-sac.
looks like
Yeah,
the
it seems
road
like you
makes a
could do
loop, just like identify it.
Well, here, you have that, so yeah, he could totally
But
turn
maybe
around
that could
there,
just
or
be a
they could use
note.
this as a.
Since you wrote it somewhere, I read it, basically pointed out that it's.
So you're gonna add, you already
Sure.
have marked the driveway for lot 1.
I
as
did mention it in the
A
letter,
turn,
but I didn't
emergency
put a
pull-up, you're
label
gonna
on the
add
map.
on lot 2, a note that that's where the turnaround is.
Mhm.
Are you gonna,
Is that sufficiently wide
It
enough
has
to
to be
do
a
that?
certain size.
What that?
Has to be a certain size. I have no idea.
Well,
what
in
it
this
is.
case, we have a circle
Right.
that's got a radius bigger than, I could figure out what the
Yeah, I
radius
have
of
no-
this
I mean,
turnaround.
I
But
don't know fire code.
So you will make sure that
that is.
Big, right.
It's got to meet whatever that.
Yeah.
code is.
Whatever the
Right.
fire code is, that a fire
Building
truck
code,
can turn
yeah.
around there.
do they want to turn around actually on lot 2? Or do they want,
Well,
There
they
is
have
one.
this here, that they can turn around, but they also have this. that
Normally they
can
would
turn
just have
around.
a.
They have,
Cul-de-sac.
yeah.
Right, do the Y thing.
Pull off.
It's not
This
turn around
doesn't
no, I
have
know,
that.
It's just
that's
it's
why I'm
already
thinking it's
there.
just like a booth on the
So we
side
can't
into
turn-
somebody's driveway and.
This one would need it. I
Like a
mean,
half
if
of a
they, if
T.
they want this bigger, then it would be a little more disturbance in front of the house in order to get the full 70 feet. That's the 70 that they
Well,
want on the
most of those
turnaround.
houses are gonna need to turn out anyway if they're gonna have a gas truck coming in
Yeah,
there.
exactly.
They have a little one there, yeah.
So maybe
Okay,
that
so
needs to be
we're good.
expanded.
What needs to be
That
expanded?
probably needs to be expanded on the map to turn.
Yeah.
Those Y
Make
things
sure
or a
that
circle or whatever.
So they need something,
It
you're
just
saying
needs to
they
be
need
perfect.
something on
Right,
lot,
needs to be fire code
on each lot or just?
on all 3 lots. Right.
Okay, anybody else?
And as Sam said, it needs to be 16 when it's shared and then go down to 12.
Yep.
I have a question. When you said they introduce 100-foot volunteer
Setback from the wetland.
setback,
Mhm.
so what about the septic area?
No, the
Right.
septic area needs to stay there. That's where it was approved by the health department.
Okay. And
That's
it's
the
a-
one exception.
It's a septic, okay,
And that's allowed under,
because it's a.
Anybody else?
I got one of those.
Okay,
Very quickly, all the water runoff stuff good for you after seeing all of this?
Yeah,
You had a lot of questions and all your stuff and I.
I
don't know
had,
anything
because I
about it.
didn't know how much grading there was gonna be. And then when I got this revised setback and looked at the profiles, and the contours again, I was like, oh yeah, you really don't need to grade, except that in the profile for a couple, there's a little bit of fill in a sort of low area that would have gone down a little more steeply, but I mean, the terrain for the driveways in really isn't so steep. It was just,
So that was one of our concerns, runoff rating for the existing ponding.
Well, but
It wasn't found to be any. So
This is
Liz,
one
you're
of-
satisfied that we're fine, right?
Whatever happened with the ditching that came from Jeff Fry, the highway department, did he ever make a comment?
I
about-
thought last time I
Yeah.
mentioned that he went out there, he said
Right.
that the drainage culverts are fine.
We're fine.
He's
Yeah,
so full of
yeah,
it.
there is a
He hasn't
letter,
mentioned it
There's a
never
letter there.
flooded.
there is
He
a
sent
letter.
Oh my God.
The letter, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah, it
driven
was-
through the flooding.
November 12th, upon review of culvert at Baker Road during heavy rain on November 12th, all three culverts appear to be working properly, therefore there's no further action needed.
November 12th, Sam?
Well, the
It's-
rain on November 12th, yeah. And we did get a lot of rain on November 12th.
Absolutely.
So,
and in this particular case, the per lot erosion and sediment control thing showed enough for the lots that are being built.
Okay.
But
any other
the lot
questions?
is already there.
Comments?
I couldn't read it, but we'd said in another, it's just because you can't expand it on the computer. Liz had suggested taking the verbiage for the fencing for the rattlesnakes.
Oh, yeah, I did
From-
update.
Yeah, I
that.
saw that you had it up there and you just basically cut and paste what ecological solutions and put in, right? Because it's not just a regular silk fence, it's like,
Oh, it's got
the
smaller
special-
wires.
yeah,
It's usually
exactly.
6 inch and this is 1/4 inch. So the little snakes bounce their nose off of stuff.
And I actually grabbed the report and reviewed what they put on the plans to make sure it covered all. of
okay,
it.
perfect.
Verbiage in there, but it wasn't.
It didn't.
It was
Yeah.
okay. I just could see if
Right.
they've been copied
Yeah.
and pasted, 'cause you couldn't-
Anything
That's
else?
it for me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a quick question. It's sort of not really significant. Where's it wetland number 3?
Oh, it's a tiny,
0.00.
tiny little thing. It's right here. It's a little isolated.
Okay, I
Yeah,
remember one
it's
time I
like-
saw it.
I know, but there is an upland section between the two, and I'm not the biologist and neither are you, so.
Can't wait till.
All right, so I'm gonna cut off discussion and
Okay.
questions.
All right.
We have plenty of time, plenty of meetings to ask all of these, so we're done. We're not done.
It's new protocol.
All right, so the purpose of tonight was to do, to have this review. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, board.
And also to have a public hearing on this. We have one scheduled, right? It will be the 301 after that. Before that, we need to do seeker. Liz, you did the seeker.
I prepared you. for
It's just
EAF.
been headed, so thank you.
Go ahead,
I have it.
you go.
So I'm going to, well, first we need to type it as a unlisted action,
Uncoordinated.
uncoordinated.
I'll make a
Entertain a
motion.
motion.
that It's typed as unlisted, uncoordinated.
Second, Sam. All in favor, we need to do a roll call.
So Mr. Williams,
All right.
Ms. Lindstrom,
Yep.
Mr. Grasso,
Aye.
Mr. Pinsky.
Aye.
Mr. Zarowski,
Aye.
here, Jim.
See. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is review the 11 questions, and I'm gonna intersperse it with information that Liz provided us with as well. So this is the part 2 of the short environmental assessment form. Number 1, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? And Liz added in here, the proximity of proposed improvements to wetlands and water courses is not consistent with the 2006 comprehensive plan objectives, including stream bank protection. So it's typed here as it was indicated here as no or small impact. Remember where Liz does where there's parts here. In part 3, we indicate what the mitigation for that item is. So point out what the issue is, and then when we read part 3, we have the mitigations to that item. So does everybody agree with the no or small impact?
It has an asterisk, so it means.
I can't hear you.
It has an asterisk, so it means it's a. small,
Okay, why didn't you type it as moderate to large?
Because I didn't think it was.
Because you just didn't.
I mean, it's a, it's two new lots.
All right,
That was my professional opinion. But it's your document.
I
okay,
mean, also, since we pulled nails and got the 100-foot setback, that make a difference also.
I agree.
That's a big, that can take it from a moderate into a small. in my
Okay,
opinion.
so I agree, and I think it's appropriate. Thank you. 2, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land? No or small impact. 3, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community? No or small impact. 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? No or small impact. 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure, mass transit, biking, or walkway? No or small impact. 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably or available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? No or small impact. 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies? No or small impact. Or B, public-private wastewater treatment utilities? No or small impact. 8, proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? No or small impact. 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? For example, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora and fauna. And there's a note and an asterisk here to see regarding the response to question 9. Construction and land disturbance will occur near a wetland and an area shallow depth of water table. Also, the proposed action may result in reduction or degradation of the potential habitat of timber rattlesnake. Again, it's type no or small impact because there are mitigation items that are mentioned on the
The asterisk
reverse side.
making it small.
Number 10, will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion and drainage problems? No or small impact. 11, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources, human health? No or small impact. I just want to mention, we usually go through this and it seems rather pro forma. Check, 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 check. This is one of the, we've had a few, but this is one where there were some impacts, no, like small impacts, and mitigation methodologies that were agreed to by the applicant. And that's what I'm going to read now in section 3 or part 3. There were small or moderate impacts, small impacts noted, and here are the mitigations. Small impacts were noted regarding construction on land near wetlands with a depth of water table less than 3 feet, as well as near water courses. The site plans demonstrate limited or no disturbance of federal wetland boundaries. Thank you for the plans include typical home site soil erosion and sediment control detail for individual lot stormwater runoff practices and erosion sedimentation control measures that will mitigate disturbance impacts generally, which will be protective of the wetlands as well. And the second one having to do with the disturbance of habitat of the timber rattlesnake, the potential small impact noted above about the potential reduction or degradation of habitat is related to the timber rattlesnake, for which a plan notation and the corresponding silt fence area detail sets forth precautionary measures for site work conducted between April 1st and October 1st. These precautionary measures are intended to protect potential habitat between these dates of April 1st to October 31st, when the timber rattlesnakes are likely to be active.
Before you take action,
Yes.
I have a question for Liz. Liz, when you did the part 2 and you have things in red, are the things in red just notes to the planning board, or are they intended?
That's just to make the text that I've added to the form stand out for the planning board.
So that's not to be in the actual,
Decision.
on the,
Okay. The
on
way
the
I,
part 2, are the parts in red supposed to remain on the part 2?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, because they.
And I would ask where it says at the very beginning, you have an asterisk denotes a potentially small or possibly moderate impact, but all of those things are small.
Because they're
So-
in that column. That column is no or small. If I put the asterisk in moderate, it would have been moderate.
I know,
But you
but
note up the
none are
top.
in moderate.
Which
So
one
you
is
want
it?
to just get rid of that.
So I would get rid of
Okay,
the,
Or moderate.
right, denotes a potentially small impact and get
Okay,
out,
that's
or
fine.
possibly moderate. Because I think that could be confusing down the
okay,
road.
that's fine.
Thank you.
And then I just want to point out that in part 3, the first thing it says is no moderate or large impacts were noted.
Right, that's why I thought it was
No.
inconsistent to have
Yes, you're right.
potentially
All right,
moderate, since there were no moderate.
Yep.
so does everybody follow that on part
Mhm.
2 up in the red, an asterisk denotes a potentially small, leaving
Impact.
out or possibly moderate impacts?
Yep.
I can
Okay.
correct this.
All right.
Thank
Another
you.
correction.
So continuing on, the box for, we're checking the box that this board has determined, based on the information analysis and any supporting documentation, that the proposed action will not result in any significant adverse environmental impacts. I make a motion to that effect. I need a second,
Second.
and we have a roll call vote.
Mr. Williams,
All right.
Ms. Lindstrom.
Yep.
Mr. Grasso,
Yes.
Mr. Pinsky.
Yeah.
Mr. Zarowski. Chair Jones.
Yes. So this board has determined the negative
Negative
declaration.
So I'll do an updated one because I also made an error. It says. fully
You said
down.
full one, I was gonna say,
Short
that should say short.
and sediment is misspelled, so I'll fix that.
Okay, so once you fix that, get it to Nicole, because I need to sign and date this. Okay. All right, so that's for seeker. And now we're gonna have a public
I
hearing.
think some people who were here earlier thought that this, like a sign, like that you had
A
a sign
sign-in
in.
sheet?
Not all of the names are, I think it's just the first couple.
Okay.
So that's all, and see who's here.
Yeah.
Who is here to speak publicly about the Malatesta project? The public hearing is now open.
I would go down that list just because
Okay.
people.
I think there were some people here.
They were.
And I apologize if I butcher some of these names. Luann or Lorianne Monico. Mavis Harris.
Misco, I think Misco, isn't that a neighbor? Yep.
Say that again.
I think the Misco, is that what you said, Misco?
They're not here.
I think they're a neighbor. I've seen that on the map. I
Yeah,
know.
Okay.
yeah.
I can't make out the other first name, Atkins. Manfred, Robert Manfred,
No comment.
sorry,
I have no.
No problem.
okay. And then we have, the rest of these people was signing in, and Einer and his wife. and all
I
that.
want to talk about everybody's.
Okay, so once again, is there anybody who wishes to make a comment?
Open, because these people left, I'm a little confused, or did they, and. They,
Down in back,
I'm just
or-
concerned about Misco because I think they're a neighbor.
Well, I mean,
Oh, we're not gonna.
No comment. Sorry.
You do have a comment?
No, no comment.
Oh,
Okay,
If you're looking for the people, it's here.
and you're
Atkins.
Atkins,
Oh,
okay.
No,
oh,
You're-
okay.
Oh, all right.
Okay,
Well,
good,
then
okay.
we're good.
Then we're-
We're
okay.
good.
All right.
Maybe they were just signing in as.
Cindy's comment is good, yeah, that counts.
We just thought everyone had decided.
Okay, all good.
That's all good. We
Thank
wanna
you
make
for
sure-
doing.
Thank you.
Thank
So
you.
we can close.
Yeah, just
Okay,
in case
so-
they thought there was like the other ones and they all
motion to
left.
close
and, yeah.
public hearing.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, second.
Second, Mark, all in favor of closing the public hearing for Malatesta project? Anybody opposed? Okay, I'm fine. So it's closed.
All right.
Your resolution for.
Wait,
No,
for next.
Yeah.
meeting.
Well,
Get a new
hopefully,
submittal?
yeah.
Do a draft resolution.
Sounds good.
Yes,
Yeah, that's 52 days to make one.
it's, I make a motion
Move it
that
along.
we
You make a motion.
employ a
You don't make-
CPO.
no, make-
You don't need to do
Yeah.
that. I'm just asking for.
Yes.
Yes.
We'll see
Yeah,
you at the
and
next
Heather,
meeting.
you can get us the revised
final.
things with the driveway turnarounds for the fire department,
Okay,
and then she can drafting from there.
sounds great. Cool, thank you.
For the next meeting, we'll have the resolution, the findings and the decision. Liz, you'll take care of that.
And I'll
I
use
need
the new
that as soon
formats
as
that I need.
possible so we can distribute that. Heather, we'll see you again next one.
Thank you very much.
Heather, are you done?
You guys are done with me. More than enough. Have a show.
Okay, we'll see you later.
All right, so the next item on the agenda, it's only 9, so we still have 2 hours.
No. But you have.
Come on, Max.
All right, the next project on the agenda is CDG Ridgeview. Are the people here from CDG Ridgeview? If they are,
Yes.
please identify yourself.
Christopher Coleman, attorney for the applicant.
Okay.
I'm Chris DeCharo, the engineer for the
Oh, hi, Chris.
How are you?
Hi, Chris and Chris.
Chris is here.
They only employ people named Christopher.
We have Matt,
I got him here.
just one.
I have.
If you could distribute some of yours to this side, that's- that'd be helpful.
Here, I have,
Anything new in that overlap?
We have.
I have the folder.
Here we go.
There's much layout.
Yeah.
I don't need one. Okay.
Except for those tiny battle signals, I can pretty much do everything on my computer.
Okay.
Like the whole fence, right?
You got here before, we're starting this before 9, usually around 9:30, so I get a slap happy.
So we still have
Some
pretty
Mondays.
short.
So what I'm gonna do is, for Chris too, ask you to present what you have here that's different from what was presented before. And then Liz, I'm gonna turn to you to give us the summary of comment. And it's probably appropriate, Liz, I know you're a quick study and you also listen, so if there were things that we'd already discussed in other projects, depending upon how the applicant about that, so we may have to go through some of those same things again. In terms of, we'll do
You're
that.
all here.
Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Okay, so I haven't actually done a real presentation on this one yet, but so basically 2 lots, 69 acres to be reconfigured into 5 lots. And we've got the shared driveway access in 2 lots. So we've had the wetland delineation done. That's on here. It's on the project map and we've got Board of Health approval on all the layouts, all these lots. We've got the town highway superintendent, right, who's given us a letter about these locations. 2, 3. I think that's kind of the highlights.
Changes from last time?
From last time. I think we've had not any major layout changes. I mean, we've added a bunch of information, some labeling, related to wetland delineation. But yeah, I mean, the layout is essentially the same.
All right, so let me go through the things that I have, that I devised from some of the material that was presented to us, and also from other, 1 or 2 of the other meetings we had. You were here last month, and then you skipped, I think, October, and you were here in September, as I recall.
Yeah, I wasn't. at
Here
last
with
one,
the
yeah.
surveyor, the first meeting, we skipped one and now.
Okay. So what I've got based upon my review of the map and the documentation, let me rattle through them rather than we start either debating them or limits of disturbance are missing for all lots. We had talked about that once before. And the reason that becomes very important is there's a provision in our code that provides for the marking of trees in excess of 24 inches in girth at 4 feet at breast height. So we're going to ask you to do that. And unless you want to have to mark every tree of that sort on the entire property, you're going to want limits of disturbance. Limits of disturbance would be a line, and we could certainly share some maps with you. The Malatesta project, for example, had limits of disturbance mapped on them very well. It goes
That's
around
on
where
here.
you disturb.
Yeah, that's on here. Limits of disturbance.
Yeah, it's
here.
on the second.
I did. Where? Which map? The first?
We got it
I
on,
think the second or third.
yeah, 3rd. I think it's on the 3rd.
But I
and
think
it's
for
the
the
4th.
whole development, it's not on the second. Oh, I'm
There's like a sediment erosion control.
Sheet
There's a
4.
there's
Sheet
a
4.
lot line, there's a limit of disturbance, on pretty much the whole.
Is that the
It's
red
the
one?
blue
Red
lines.
line.
Red
Yeah.
line?
Yeah, you're.
No.
That red line is discontinued.
No,
You can
that's,
see it, maybe better on the.
you can almost see it better on the steep slope.
Yeah, it's kind of a purple.
It's the
kind of a
farthest
purple
out
line.
dash.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's a-
You know, I don't want to tell you how to do the surveying the maps, but it seems like the property is big enough to begin to extend some of these lots on a separate pieces of paper, 3 lots on one page, 2 lots on another page. I can't make out does anybody on the board see the lines of disturbance?
Yeah.
Online,
see them,
it's on
It's-
map,
it's-
it's on 4, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
it's that
the
purple.
easier to see it on the
That
web.
purple
Blue
dash
line.
line.
Oh, I do see it.
So it's the, well, if you look at it on your
I think we just need
computer.
to brighten up the colors.
Well, it's good on here, it's bright
background.
blue.
It's bright on the
Color
computer.
Right, right.
Maybe a
It's just-
slightly heavier line. Would that be right?
Okay, so I apologize. It is there. It's very, or else you're gonna be marking every tree. I
Yeah.
know you don't want to do that. You need to mark, that's here too, but the Ulster County core habitat.
That's there,
Yeah,
that's
that's
the
the
black,
gray.
the dark
Yeah.
stuff.
Gotcha.
Dark-
I think
dark
that's what's
gray and
making it
back.
hard to see the other one.
If you just go back to the limited disturbance line, it's continuous, for example, from the road. You can follow it, the road all the way around, everything happening on all the lots in fact.
Okay.
It's
Right.
one polygon,
Thank you, Liz.
so that makes it a little.
Yeah, I missed it.
It's easy to
Um,
count the area.
It was also mentioned, I know in Liz's memo, in all of her memos, grading and stormwater practices. I'll let her talk about those in detail. I think we do know off, so the grading and stormwater, Liz is gonna, you didn't need another turn off. You've got to turn off about 500 feet up. But our code requires for this long, one every 500 feet, so.
Didn't we,
We did that already. We
didn't
used
we
the
say, we
driveway
used the
as,
driveway, there was the first one, I don't,
I remember that. We used
Yeah.
the first driveway
was
as
the first
turnoff.
driveway, how far back is
It
that?
is, yeah.
That's,
Well, there's a pullout.
In the road. plan.
You've got a bump out on
Yeah.
part of the driveway,
Yeah, if you go to the road plan. it's
and then the
over.
driveway.
The road plan's a lot
yeah,
larger
there's a
scale.
bump out, midway to the first driveway, there's a bump out.
Yeah, about
right?
400 feet,
Yeah.
the first one, yeah, and then we got another one at about 800 feet. And then we
Exactly,
kinda
right
have another
before
one
the-
About 1300,
Yeah, they're there.
and
Okay.
then there's one
They're
at the
there.
end, you got the.
The
you know,
turnaround,
yeah,
they're
Typical
there.
fire code
Yeah.
turnouts. It's in compliance with chapter 10 fire code, like the geometry that they want. for
It's just with the
emergency vehicles.
topo, you have the lines, you
Can't see
I
it.
know, it's a tough balance.
I guess that was the
Giving you
problem I
enough
was-
information
Yeah.
and making it unreadable.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can
that was
see
the
it.
problem I was having.
No, they're there.
Just a question about the lot line, the lines of disturbance on lot number. You got the primary septic area and you have the secondary septic area.
Mhm.
The lines of disturbance are gonna be, why don't you have the secondary closer to the primary?
They're based on soils testing locations. And you would not normally be disturbing the secondary the river area, so.
So you have no intention of disturbing?
No, you normally,
You
yeah,
do that if
that's
it
for,
fails.
yeah,
Only
20
if it
years from
fails.
now, that first system fails, that's just the Board of Health requires that we have a reserve site.
On that point on lot one, why is the approved site that's further from the proposed home site as the primary and one that's close to it, the secondary?
This one is partially in ground, better soils here.
Okay.
Behind it, we hit rock relatively early. It's not as desirable of a location.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. All right, thanks, Sam. All right, Liz, I'm gonna give it to you because you had a lot of points about the grading.
Okay.
So why don't you, and the stormwater practice, so why don't you talk about that, and then we'll go around the table for the rest of the board.
Okay, let's see. So, one of my general themes that runs through here is that we're gonna need to see any necessary stormwater management practices. So then, of course, the limited disturbance, and once those are shown, will be a little bit different for those practices.
That was a question that I had actually was, being as we aren't hitting this disturbance with this current configuration, stormwater practices would we actually need to have?
Well, I didn't, have any engineering review done because there are some other issues. And I want let me touch base on those. Hang on just a second. Oh, we had asked for horizontal and vertical site distances, in the shared driveway
Mhm.
to be shown, and when we see those, you might need to do some other grading. We need to see what's happening in the road. It's also kind of hard to believe you don't, some kind of a stormwater management practice with the road that long.
We
At
do
some
have
point.
culverts, and we have culverts, crossing culverts.
I guess the concern is,
I
you
mean,
know,
typically,
obviously
we wouldn't start
prevent-
to manage until 5, over 5 acres. That's what we manage. And it, with a subdivision this size, it's kind
You
of,
can
a-
management
fine.
practices under 5 acres.
Well, you
Right?
could,
Anyone
Not,
who's-
not the SWIFT, but
yeah, you
Not
could,
a
but
sweat.
you're kind of balancing here too is if the more stuff you start to add, the more disturbance and the more you're cutting. So obviously, if you're required to manage, we would do it. If we're not required to, naturally, most developers are going to try to stay away from the extra treatment. I think for the board, if you're looking to protect the property, less tree clearing is better. If you have to start stormwater ponds and stuff like that, that's a lot of additional disturbance.
So we don't create storm, correct me when I'm wrong, we'd only create stormwater ponds if you need them because of the current. So I think the first question is, what grading is going to be required, given the amount of work that you're going to be doing here in terms of the road? That was Liz's question. So the question is to you, are you doing any grading? Liz is indicating that she sees no indication that you want, but believes that,
Well,
how
there
could you
is
not
some-
be doing
right.
grading?
There is some grading.
Yeah,
but
there's
it's
proposed
kind of tight.
contours and grading.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the question is, what are you gonna do to prevent any kind of stormwater runoff?
Well, I mean, the runoff's there, it's gonna happen, we're following, essentially the natural drainage patterns are pretty much gonna remain the same. I mean, the only thing we really have to manage at this level is to just prevent the road from, basically interrupting the stormwater flow.
Which,
so
what
we're-
about the road? Will you have runoff going into the road, or is the runoff going into the site?
Well, I mean, you're gonna have runoff, from these sites, you're gonna pretty much have runoff in the pattern that's in right now. The houses are not, there's no redirect flow anywhere really. I mean, with the road, you'll have ditches, you have some culverts, so, you're gonna have some collection points. But predominantly, this property wants to drain sort of this way.
Okay, so will anything go to Ridgeview Road?
No, there's a negative grade
Okay.
here, and then pretty
That's
much
what I
everything
thought,
stays
but I
in the
needed to
site.
hear it from the horse's mouth.
Everything is kind of, you're sloping in from the back, and that's probably why this is we're sort of a wetland area. It's a natural drainage course from northeast to, down to the southwest.
So
So-
is your grading sort of creating a swale?
There are some roadside swales, but they really are fairly short and just route water to, get it away from the road and continue on down this major, drainage course.
Right.
So we're really not redirecting anything, and here, these grades are up. So you couldn't
And what
direct it
about,
up that
like,
way
are
if
these
you wanted to.
individual driveways, which way are they draining? Are they
This is,
draining in?
yes, these are both in, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing drains onto Ridgeview Road.
So Liz, let me ask a question then. Did Greg look at,
I didn't have him look because I wanted to have these kinds of questions answered.
all right, so
And what I'm wondering is whether we should have some offline consultation.
Yes. Oh, my God, I was just thinking,
Okay,
because this is pretty much.
As in you want me to talk to Greg.
yeah, I think it would be good. We
Yeah.
had like a conference.
I mean, I would
call,
normally do that, so, yeah.
And we'll
you're
set
okay with
something
it. I'm
up,
good
so
with
it'll
that.
be
Yeah.
Greg, Chris, and does anybody from the planning board want to be on, or will it just be me, Greg, Chris?
there's no reason, unless somebody's a drainage expert.
Just about-
Are you a drainage expert?
No water relocation specialist.
Exactly.
So
Okay.
Liz, you and Greg and Chris take care of it, and you let this board know are we okay or not.
That's
Right.
good. And the other thing, did you guys do any kind of calculations to figure out that whatever flow you're creating via the swales and culverts are adequate? Did you do any?
Yeah, I mean.
I'm not talking about a full SWIP, just,
Right.
calculations.
Yeah, I always do like kind of a quick takeoff to make sure that we're in the ballpark on culverts.
It would be helpful to have calculations if you
Yeah.
have those.
Yeah, I can put something
If you
together.
So Liz, that question gets to the point of flows before the same as flows after.
Mhm.
See, I do know a little about drainage.
See?
Just like I know a
In
little bit
this
about
case, in this case, more, it's, you want to make that whatever's coming in, from the northeast is, you're not going to restrict it at these pipes.
Okay.
That's the main, main concern here. You don't want the road to be an impound.
So Liz, I'm leaving that up to Greg and Chris to get back to this board with.
Okay,
All right.
and then, okay, there were a couple places, so I'm going to my comment number, on page 2, number 5. And prior comments talked about delineating conservation area. Points in it with steeply sloped wetland and wooded areas, Ulster County Habitat Corps lands being avoided. And so I'd ask for narrative, just a description of any protections that may be such conservation area boundary as far as restrictions on clearing or development, et cetera, what instrument would be used. And the response letter said that the applicant will discuss the planning board. So that was one to discuss with the planning board. And then number 6, same kind of theme. Prior comments recommended plan notation be included to describe protections for these areas or refer to any corresponding easement or deed restriction. And again, submitted response letter said the applicant will discuss the planning board. So I thought we should.
Yeah, I think the applicant's feeling was that if there's going to be a stakeout and a site walk, he'd prefer that the board get out there, see the property and see what concerns are, to have that whole conversation, in terms
I think
of
that's a great idea.
I think it's a good
Let
idea
us-
too.
Let us
Yeah.
out and
Let's
see.
go look at
just give us
Look
some
at it first,
feedback on
yeah.
what you see and, we can kind of maybe put
So,
together a better
Chris,
answer.
would
for
it be you that would set that up?
I think the staking is already in the queue with the surveyor. We're just waiting for him to do it. And then as soon as that's ready, we can let you know.
So who from your organization will out with us?
I guess it probably would have to be me. Unless you want to.
You'll join me, we'll bring the lawyers, that'll make everyone happy.
All right,
I'll
Chris,
give our
would you
opinions on the
contact
drainage.
Nicole?
Sure.
Work on some
Yeah,
dates,
sure.
and then Nicole, we have to do it in 2, because we can't have any more than
Get a
3
quorum.
people.
Oh,
And
yeah.
also, we had,
Might need 3.
So 3 trips, 2 each.
3 trips with maybe 3 on one, 2 on another, no more than 3
No
people.
more than
can
3.
go.
We could do it all the
Usually
same
we
day,
don't
On the same day, we just,
like a 9, 9 to 10,
15,
10 to
yeah.
11, get it all
They
done.
get lunch break somewhere in there?
If you're buying.
comment number 4 says, please prepare the site by staking the locations of proposed shared and individual driveways and houses. This will allow the planning board to make visits, to the site, understanding the possible disturbed areas and determine whether there are any issues to be noted.
Mhm.
So that's the staking that the board.
Mhm.
does.
Even predominantly, there's no real trail here, although we did try to avoid anything significant with GPS. And once you get in here, there's sort of woods road that we tried to follow with the proposed roads to not do any more than you have to do.
So the
but-
center
or-
line of that should be
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah, I mean, more or less, you'll know you're going off the trail. You're probably not right on your stake
Right.
out, so.
You guys staked it yet, or?
I know, the surveyor's got to stake it. We've given him everything. We're waiting on him. He's just
Okay.
backlogged, so.
the,
Is that
Could you-
weather permitting? Snow, so basically we can go.
Huh?
Yeah, if enough snow cover, that would probably hold it up.
it doesn't
But-
snow anymore.
Yeah, it's
I mean,
true.
anymore.
Yeah, we don't really get
Let's
snow
say-
anymore.
let's say
Yeah.
that.
Today,
For the white Christmas.
Sorry, you're from Finland, don't you have?
Do you
stools?
think
I
you
don't
could
feel it.
I think it's
I'm just,
well far away,
Asking the
but
reality question.
put the 100-foot buffer that would be around the thing here, around the wetland area? Yeah, the wetland all
This is wet.
delineated, another wet, but then what 100 feet would be, but I don't want to see is also the,
Mhm.
Well, we also need the flag things on there.
Yeah, the
enough-
Army Corps wetland, weren't really, aware that we were gonna need to do that, and it's becoming obvious listening to other
Well,
projects.
we're looking
Yeah,
for
we
we
protection.
love,
for it.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
well,
a consistent practice.
honestly, don't see it really having much of an effect.
I don't think
on
so
the
here, the
layout,
houses are
Except for
quite-
lot 3, I think lot
Right.
3, the house would have to move. Not a big deal, really. And then this section of the road,
Yeah, but
I think that would be the only spot we would.
Does the board have some flexibility on the 100-foot desire that the board
We
requires?
have flexibility when the applicant shows equal flexibility.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
the
I
answer
think,
to that is yes
I think we can.
and yes.
So it's not something, we do not have the ability to impose that.
When we get this new code, and we do.
Right, yeah,
But
let's
it's
not, let's
not
not go
in
there.
here.
We're not looking to.
We're aware of
looking to
that.
fight
We're
you
aware of
on it.
that.
Yeah, we're not
We'll
looking
try
to
to
fight you on
accommodate
it.
as best we can, but there
Yeah.
are 2 points where he mentioned earlier, we said earlier.
Right.
I noted that there might be, it might be closer than
Leeway.
100
I
feet,
think
but-
this section of the road, the shared driveway, I think is the.
As you
only-
Is
saw
the
bef-
only one really, and which
Yeah.
is no,
And
not
that,
really a big deal.
Chris,
that
Chris, the
particular-
lawyer, as you saw before, we were flexible with the previous. It would certainly be,
Yeah, they had a
we asked for the
septic.
Yeah, they
same
had a
courtesy
septic
of
was in that.
flexibility.
we can achieve the same level of flexibility as the earlier applicant, we'll get the same level of flexibility. from the board.
Yes. Maybe. Depending how flexible we're feeling that day.
I'll put that down as a strong maybe.
So did you get the answer to your question?
It depends, right? It's always the answer.
Exactly.
When I deal with lawyers, it's always like, it depends.
That's right.
But we'll certainly work with you to get this accomplished. That we would like, again, to see is that notes in the map indicate the desire to preserve the core habitat lands, of which more than half the property is core habitat land.
Mhm.
Well, so circling back to the conservation conversation. You've identified 4 areas you're concerned with. Is it, we don't really have any board in terms of what the board ordinarily does. I don't have any sense of this.
Well, our
Which of
ordinary
those-
practice, and what's worth
Yes.
sometimes is ask people for actual conservation area. And is that, that there are deed restrictions and notes on the map that indicate or prohibits activities in certain areas. We did that with one project. In other projects, you heard us talk with the previous applicant about strong notes and strong insistence that these habitat core areas not be disturbed. Our preference is to have easement or protected properties that is lined up on the map and in the deeds of the properties. That's our strong.
Does the board have any
preference.
priority in terms of wetlands, the core areas, the different area, the 4 different
Well,
areas that designated?
Yes.
Habitat consists of wetlands, of trees, of shrubs, of
Well, it's
rocks.
the stuff that's identified. It's the wetlands, core habitat areas,
Fauna.
steep slopes.
Right.
And you treat all the same priority for all those things.
I mean, it's that same flexibility, right? It's a voluntary thing. So we're saying like, we like to see as much deed restriction as possible. That's still the plans that you have.
And I guess I would go back to other Chris's comment. We sort of need to hit and
See it.
see
Right,
because.
That's what we thought.
Yeah,
right?
Because
Let's
you
take a
go,
look
you
at
can see
it.
like, wow, this wetland is a great wetland, or this is,
Not so
or
good.
you have got fantastic old wonderful trees of varying kinds, or you got a bunch of white pines,
Or
So I guess we
shrub,
sort of-
shrub, yeah.
or it's like, exactly, and they shrubs all over somewhere. So you sort of have to,
So there would definitely, Chris, the lawyer, there's definitely areas, particularly on lot 4 and 5, that entire back area is certainly an area that we'd love to see a deeded conservation easement. Swing around from there and along the neck of the house on lot 3, and then dipping into towards the road and coming back out again. Those are certainly areas we'd like to see a deeded conservation easement. I mean, it's usually obvious on the map, and certainly after we really obvious.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you'll see up by this road here. This isn't very interesting, that little finger sticking out there, but as you get into the sort of wider areas, this is where there's more, like more vegetation, more
Right.
real wetland habitat, so.
And
And
whenever,
if I mean, the conservation easement area can be discontinuous, contiguous. And so in the front area of these lots would also be very valuable to protect.
Mhm. Yeah, there's certainly enough steep areas there that if you're, that's something you're concerned about.
So we've seen conservation
unusually steep
easements,
areas.
we've seen just
marked conservation.
marked
area.
conservation area. Something strong that tells future homeowner, well, first the easement tells the homeowner you can't do X, Y, Z there, whatever the X, Y, Z is.
Mhm.
And marked conservation area is a little bit less strict, but certainly marks that, hey, you're moving into an area that is extremely important to this community.
Mhm.
That core habitat area is significant.
Okay.
All right.
mention of that, it certainly doesn't hurt in terms of keeping runoff.
Yeah, exactly. And well, and your point was good also, less you can, if you don't put retention ponds and stuff like that, then you sort of.
The way you can keep it, the better, yeah. I
Right.
mean, when they do road work and stuff, they'll look to try to minimal, do minimal, whatever they have to
Exactly,
do.
and that ends up being,
Not to mention the quality and character of the area doesn't hurt the property values.
yeah, exactly.
So we appreciate your receptivity to our comments.
Sure, yeah.
And we're hoping to
Glad to hear.
see that kind of flexibility. Liz, you have anything else? All right, while you're doing that, I'm gonna go around the
I can
table
look at the code on
to
Google
catch
Face,
people that
but
haven't
when I have
spoken.
the board.
Sam, do you have anything while Liz is looking?
Oh, wait.
Wait, Liz.
I mean,
Sam's
I
talking.
guess when I look at the slope analysis map, looking at lot 1 in particular, the first one that comes off the shared driveway. We have some language in our subdivision code about crossing steep slopes. We have a prohibition above 25%. It doesn't look like you're hitting any 25%, but you're above 15 crossing through there. And we tried to avoid, I guess the question is like, what's the reason for the home site being there? It looks like it's a bit of a knoll, so nice view. But is there,
Pretty heavy canopy in there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's
it
really any
seems
view.
to-
is there,
And the other thing you
I
gotta,
looked at it like maybe the home, below that steep, I don't know if it's up or down, but closer to the shared driveway.
Mhm.
To avoid crossing over that steep slope, potentially also for the septic.
Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. The other thing you have to consider here too is the driveway. You're talking about a pretty narrow strip and it's not coming at that slope like it's kind of.
Follow.
Yeah.
So it says is actually less
Right.
than a 10% driveway.
Yeah,
even
we,
through here.
like, our code allows it, especially for driveways, because
Mhm.
we understand you have to sometimes cross. I guess the question was more to the effect of like, was there a strong reason to prefer the site that's indicated as opposed to a site that would just avoid it altogether?
I think you just like the house site, it's like conversation we could have with the applicant.
Mhm.
But
That's
yeah,
Good comment, Sam, good catch.
And then, I mean, I guess then I'm just thinking from looking at the topo that like the front of lot 3, as in closer to Ridgeview Road,
It's
is not,
like-
that's just way too steep.
Yeah.
to be used.
And then
It's-
the front of 1 and 2 are also kind of not buildable for the same reasons. They're either too steep or.
Yeah.
Too wet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the two-
And
Yeah,
then
one
once you
is
have
too
the
wet,
driveway
and
going
yeah,
back,
two-
okay.
Yeah, access to.
Those are my other questions. It was kind of about like choosing the home sites in a way, because there are the 3 that are in that core habitat
Mhm.
area. And I was kind of looking at it,
Mhm.
in a cursory way, and it was like, well, what if they were in the front, like on 4 and 5, but
Right.
I can.
Yep. It would certainly have been nicer, easier, cheaper for him if we could have done that.
Yeah.
but Yeah, it's.
Okay.
Like, if
Nobody
you
wants to
drive,
put. in the
you
field
go
there.
like,
Yeah.
you drive by and the
It
two
just
that are in
drops
the
off,
front,
yeah.
it's like,
Yeah,
I could
it's
see
deep.
that on the
Yeah.
map. I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure that I was interpreting those reasons correctly.
in fact, the first drives were just sort of like, I guess, place markers a little bit.
Mhm.
When the very first plans that came, they like went right up and then Rick fixed them, so they sort of
Right.
do the best they can to get up. in
Yeah, that
front
was the
there.
pre-engineering layout. That was just the.
Yeah, I was
Throw
like.
something on the survey. and that place.
And Chris, to Sam's point, thus the plea to make that an actual conservation easement area, you can't build on it anyway, it would
You can't get a
warm
board.
the cockles of our heart at this season to see the.
I haven't heard that in a long time.
Yeah.
It took me a minute to think about it.
Made a note about
That's
one
good.
cockle. So yeah.
Gotta dig that one out.
That made it worthwhile. Go home now.
Sam, anything else?
That was it.
Okay. No, Mark?
Well, the only thing that I have is a lot of information and we're gonna walk it. Do we want to maybe open it for public hearing?
No,
No?
no.
Because you needed neck deck beforehand.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Okay. I think I was gonna say, if we walk it,
Let's
by the
walk,
next meeting, we could have public input after, it, but maybe the timing.
As much as we'd love to move things along, I actually prefer to know that we have all the feedback or our
Exactly.
layouts. nailed
Okay.
down before
Just a
we-
suggestion.
Then we gotta start changing stuff on
No,
the
we appreciate
fly.
it. We had
and
the same
it's messy.
conversation.
I was thinking we
if we're gonna walk it, potentially we could be congruent there, but no.
I open my big mouth as much as usual, so I'm fine.
Not anymore.
I'm good. Patrick, okay. Liz,
So there's one comment here. This is on page 3, number 9, and at the end of it, it says in bold italics. Application with the planning board attorney is recommended, and here it is. As per prior comments, applicant's engineer's response confirmed that existing parcel lines do extend to the center line of
Mhm.
Ridgeview Road.
Mhm.
Accordingly, it would be appropriate to show a linear parcel with sufficient depth to have the Ridgeview Road right of way on the subdivision plans to be offered to the town of Rochester ownership, continued use and maintenance. And I say this because I see this in other towns.
This is something that you can ask for voluntarily, but there's case law that says we cannot. require.
That's fine. I just don't, this is the second time I've seen it and asked the question, and I didn't know really what this board's practice is.
Yeah,
so-
this board has not that.
And is the highway super okay with, you must be.
Yeah, because they,
So it's
They
such
do
a
still
common
have
occurrence.
rights
Yeah, right, I mean, that's,
This
Yeah,
is
to
such a
do
common
that.
scenario, yeah. It's
yeah,
almost-
this is,
It's more often than not.
this
really.
is really common in.
Yeah.
in
super
Okay.
common,
Rochester.
like most,
So
yeah,
do we not
small
need that
towns.
then? They don't need to address that comment?
No.
Okay. There you
I
go.
think it's safe to say Liz, our project in the future.
I didn't
that
even
you're
know what you
looking
were
at,
talking
just-
about. That's how foreign it is.
Okay.
uncommon is
I'm so used to seeing road right of ways, be road
Sure,
right of ways, and the parcel line starts.
And
from
there are
everything
towns who
else.
always ask for it.
Mhm.
There
Sure.
are, but it's not been
Yeah,
a
So I
problem
think-
or a request. in
And
this.
the
that's
town-
fine. I don't ask that comment.
And the
Yeah.
town does have a
All we
minimum
ask
right
is
away.
that the
Right.
owners
Okay.
The minimum
to
is 35 feet.
All right,
Yeah,
is there anything else for the applicant? Do you have any questions for us?
no, that was the question I was gonna ask you, but since we've resolved it, then.
There you go.
As far
That
as
was easy.
I think the only thing I needed a little bit more clarity on was the site distance. So now even we have the town highway superintendent having looked at these.
That's just where they land on the road, right?
Okay, just need the
It's a
site.
health,
Right.
safety, and welfare.
And now on the shared driveway, we're still looking at that even on these two driveways here.
Oh, I don't think we're looking
No.
for site
No, not in the
distance
back.
limits.
Just Here,
where it hits
here, and
the-
there.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think just
Okay,
on
that's
Ridgewood.
awesome. Okay.
Yeah, so that was.
That's
that
where it
was
hits
one of my-
Ridgewood.
They can just beep when they're on the upper.
I was just gonna say, that's why they have a horn.
The way it was worded, the one comment, it sounded like we were doing it on the shared
Okay,
driveway
thanks.
too.
Good
So,
point of clarification.
and just so low speed.
Just on Ridgeview.
Okay.
Up in their neighbor's yard.
Chris, you
and
gave
so
us,
forth.
somebody sent us a lot of information about the bat. Is there somebody who's a bat expert and wants
We're
to talk to us
waiting-
about the bat?
Waiting for the,
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a bad expert, but I mean, the normal procedure is, DEC environmental resource maps and you have completion rule and all that stuff. All came up with nothing here. Usually that's the end of it, but in this case, we did put in the request with New York County to see what they come up with, just as an added step. I don't expect that we'll get anything back, but you never know. It's a while, it's 4 to 6 weeks, I think, usually, so.
They're being
Get
different.
Every time we
further
do
into the
everything else,
process.
well,
And honestly, most of the towns I work with now, even if they don't have a habitat right on their site or whatever the animal is, they're putting the notes for those periods not to disturb areas just as a blank rule on almost all their land development applications.
Yeah, in
'Cause it's
general,
pretty easy to
I
do.
think in general, if you're doing any clearing, you see bat disturbance, then
Yeah.
you gotta stop there.
So you put that on the map, no disturbance between X and Y dates.
Well, let's
I
see
think
what,
Let-
let's
let-
what
yeah,
they-
let's
they
wait and see
come-
if we get an
their
answer
study
back.
comes back
if we
with.
get an answer, that's the answer.
Yeah,
If we
right.
don't, we'll address it.
Are you guys doing a D&E study? Not travel and entertainment. threatened entertainment. Threatened and endangered
There's
species.
nothing coming up on the New York
No
State
rattlesnake?
DEC stuff, nothing at all on these properties.
this
oddly,
doesn't come up,
With
I
anything,
mean, when I looked also with.
Yeah.
Warren finds it.
stuff, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Mine was
didn't-
out there
Actually,
with a
didn't even come up
plant
with
like looking for
wetlands,
worms
but,
one day.
you know,
Maybe
obviously.
we'll find it when we go out walking.
Yeah, I would watch out
Schedule
for
it.
that.
Yeah,
And
hopefully-
honestly,
Well, this time of year, you're probably.
We're not. Let's hope we
They're
don't.
gonna get-
Find out the hard way.
Yeah.
Okay,
So,
I have
and
nothing
you're,
else.
they're gonna,
Anybody else?
you guys are follow up with Nicole when the staking's done.
Yes.
So that we can coordinate.
Especially with the
those
holidays.
times of
Schedule
the
day.
visit.
That's funky.
With the holiday
We'll do
stuff.
Christmas Eve, we'll get everybody out.
I was gonna say, Christmas Eve will
We
be
can
there.
do candlelight.
I was gonna say, you can like, you can start a fire. maybe
Okay,
and-
we have one
GoPro
more
it for us
application
then,
on
if you
the,
want
we're done for
Christmas Eve.
tonight. Anybody else? You
Thank
have-
you.
Good,
I
thank
think we're
you.
good.
Thank
Yeah,
you all.
guys are
Appreciate
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. Yeah, you too. And again, Chris, thank you very much for your input.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry.
The Moonlight actually has a barber shop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone need a copy of the map?
No, and we'll look forward to seeing those conservation easements.
Just helpful to you to have back.
You guys can hang on to that if you want. I haven't come out my ears at this point.
In 100 different versions.
Yeah.
Nadine?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night, Chris. Touch.
I'm keeping these.
I have such.
Because some will come up as a question, and it's much easier if you get the map. I love the little ones.
They send the.
Okay.
Night.
So what I like to do, everybody knows when Dean is here. It came to bring us candy.
So I make
Wait, do you really have-
I make a motion to close public hearing because we got our hearing to close the meeting because we got our candy already. Okay, and then I'm just gonna assume this is all good.
Nice.
See, work this out.
So what I'd like to do is have you give us a summary of what you've done since we saw you last time. Particularly like you to address, there were some not issues with, but just concerns with labeling of maps.
Yeah.
But beyond, really want to know and see, you took our comments from the last meeting and incorporated them into the maps. So if you can be real specific about that, and if the board could address any comments they have as a result of the last meeting, and the movement of the lots. If you remember, lot 13 and lot 3 and 4 were moved. So I'd like you to confirm that, Nadine, explain the new maps that you submitted to us, and then we'll go around the table and have the board ask questions. Also update us on all the other work that I know you're working on.
Yeah, sure. And you know what, that comes into play a little bit, touch on that quickly. As you know, that we have started an ecological study, the T&E for the other wetlands, those, that kind of thing. So Steve George from North Country has been to the site. He had flagged some other wetlands that could be considered Army Corps, and just other ones that he calls emergent or other things. So there's some other things. Most of them are within not what's flagged for the state wetlands, but within the 100-foot buffer for that, or already kind of marked them as wet on our plan because we saw that they were wet when we were out there. So we'll be layering them. It doesn't seem to really affect much. We have a couple road crossings and that's about it. And also for the archaeological, Joe Diamond has been retained. We've walked the site with him once, and he will be starting his on-site digs this week about different holes through the site.
If
So,
anybody's find it, it's Joe Diamond.
right.
I know you said
So-
that before. I know you said that before.
Yeah,
I'm having a
yeah.
deja vu.
So, so everything we talk about today is still subject to action. We're aware of it, and as you're aware of it. So when we were here last, we really took a step back to go over to look at what the board wanted to see as the minimum conservation area, as the primary conservation areas. And I took a picture of the map that was marked. So the primary included all these wetlands areas and buffer, including part of this field as well. And then down along the creek.
Is that Sam's line right there?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Take a picture of the.
And then this here so along the creek. And then as we were talking about, it got modified a little bit so that we could keep a house site down here. So the paper red is the conservation area. All the green places are house sites. So hence the first map, sheet 2, that we generated. And Zorian had pointed out that there was some confusion, the dates and revised dates. So I did email Nicole today. I just put today's date on it. And but the titles and everything else stay the same.
Can you give us one?
Did I?
No, Can you, the set you sent, did the set you sent today
No,
have
so
sheet one?
sheet one,
It's existing conditions, but it has that
Totally.
little nifty map in the corner.
yeah,
You don't have to do it now. I'm just saying if you could. email
yes,
that
I mean,
PDF.
sheet one will be part of the set. moving
Okay, so
forward.
we'll just wait. Never
Yeah,
mind.
this is just really, taking the step back and doing step by step for the conservation areas. So what we did here was basically take this and have the conservation area, which incorporates all this wetland buffer, a portion of this field, and conserve this whole wetland. We do extend it a little bit in this direction, and when we have the future overlays, you'll see why, because we're trying to tie it into the road to gain access and then around. And then the long one coming across this wood line, same as that one. We do loop it down. It's a little bit to
Square,
make sense, yeah.
yep.
And then we just bring it up along here, same thing, so it comes alongside the roadway. So hopefully everybody finds that that's acceptable. We did also include this. This is a mapped wetland here that we knew about. We'll let you know that this wetland will extend along this area. So if once I get that mapped, we'll likely include that as well. So the house sites, again, everywhere there was an X, which was basically kind of followed our initial sketch plans.
submissions, right.
Pretty much. So this lot 13, we just moved up against the wood line, like it was marked on here. That one was moved. These are basically in place. These two, 11 and 4, were down here. So 4 back to the original location and 3 moved to here. So we find that acceptable. So beyond that, we kind of like if we had a little sheet to push over, is 2A. And this we kind of overlaid the same thing, house, same location. So we kind of just brought in where we're going to show the road and the driveway to the house sites. So this exists with obviously no lot lines. It's a little bit more clear that this is going to follow the road, so it's all inclusive. And then attach the road here for access. And then this one also will follow, just to include those steep slopes. So that's basically what that sheet entails. And then this one just gets a little bit more messy.
Which one says that?
2B, yeah, because we did talk about it with the lot lines. And one of the things to see with the lot lines is basically some of the reasons why they are what they are. For instance, the septics, so the limit of disturbance. So I didn't add the septics and everything else, but I did add the limit of disturbance, which encompasses the driveways, the house sites, and the initial septic field. So you could see how they orient themselves where we're proposing the lot line. That being said, on this sheet also, we have a little bit more description for the open space. It's the majority of the open space is all contiguous. It's all going to be 100% shared land so that everybody has access to it. This other area, this other primary area had marked here, there's a portion of that that will remain to be shared and provide access down to the creek. And then there's other that go on the back side of these lots. So it will be a conservation, basically area, but it will not have access to all the lots. So it'll be an easement over these individual lots.
So over.
Same with this.
And that
This will
guy's
be
the
an
only lot,
easement over
just his lot.
lot 14, so it'll be conserved, it won't be open to
Gotcha.
everybody in the homeowners.
Nadine, on
Yeah,
that
that makes sense.
map you're talking to right now, 2B, go down to lot 3.
Mhm.
You have a limit of disturbance that goes down into the conservation easement area.
Great. So that is one thing that we talk about in the note. We still have to cite the septic.
Right.
In that location. So
Okay.
there'll be like a limit, clearing and disturbance for that installation and that kind of thing. So
Is that septic and reserve? Or just-
there is a reserve in this location as
Okay.
well.
Okay.
Obviously we don't show disturbance. Yeah, so
So I assume that area where it winds up was an area with quite a very large trees. So
it thinned out over there a bit. I know when we walked down, there was that giant tree and there were some large
beech
trees.
tree and
Also, that being said, we have to have the trees located, and this area was wonderful. I mean, the septic, so we can move that as we need to, trees, so I'm not worried about that, even if the, shift this lot line or something.
Okay.
We will avoid trees for septic.
I don't remember exactly where they were, but okay.
And it's
that's fine.
smaller because it's just a shallow system, so
Okay.
the footprint is so much smaller than the other parcels.
Nadine, can I just comment on Rick?
Well, yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we start with you and
Sure.
then we'll hit Mary.
I remember on
Gotcha.
9 and 10, it was a little wet. And we talked about potentially
we
having a
walked.
shared driveway in 10, but avoiding a shared driveway on 11 and 12. Is that
Oh,
possible?
Um,
Because this brushy clearing, we were literally in muck. So we thought less disturbance there, having a shared driveway 9 and 10, but in lieu of that, having 11 and 12 have their own driveway.
right, so that area kind of
Yep.
up here, right? And then it was up against this line, because I think that's where we walked
Right.
through. It was a little wet. Down here, it is a little bit different,
Okay.
but we can definitely, because we're having the road marked out. Well, I know we have been saying that.
Yeah.
but We've had some delay with the surveyor. So once that's moved
Sure.
out,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, COVID, hey, it's still rampant, so we all gotta be careful and mindful of it. But, we will definitely look at this, and there is potential.
Yeah, that was super mucky there.
We've
I
got
just
some
remember that
steep
was really wet.
slopes. We've got some steep slopes
Yeah.
that we would like to avoid.
Okay.
If we can, and it makes sense, we definitely will. And I
Sure.
think, right now, we're dealing with just the GIS aerial.
Okay.
But when the road is marked out and then it's gonna be brush hogged, we're getting actual topo on the ground for the whole length of this road so that we could do actual design.
Okay.
So once we have that,
I guess
Yes.
I just, we
but I'll make
remembered we
note,
had,
because I don't remember that conversation, but you may have been out in the field with Andrew when you talked about it.
we just walked through it and
Yeah.
it was wet.
It might have been,
Okay.
yeah,
mean
we
right
were
in
with,
here?
No, so
No.
9 and 10,
Right.
there's some significant
Yeah, 'cause-
mucky area.
Because you walked up this way, because that's where the clearing is. And then down here,
Right.
like on this side of the house,
Exactly.
like for lot 10.
right, and then
So
we
I
sort of
just-
over to
so
get
this
to
is-
13.
Exactly.
It's when we were cutting,
Mhm.
That's when we had some mucky.
Yeah,
I
and
don't know where,
that
but
there's
it's almost
like
where
a-
that house is practically.
On
It's like-
10, yeah.
Yeah, there is like a ravine here too that we plan on doing a little crossing.
So on our site visit, we thought maybe that this would be better, less disturbance, but better having those combined in lieu of having 11 and 12, so those were nice and high and dry.
Right, or you could just keep them all.
Yeah, whatever. I mean,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Right, exactly.
Giving a
One
little bit
trade
of
off.
little trade there.
So
Yeah.
Mark, I just want to ask you, you're not adverse to the shared driveway in 11 and 12?
Not at all. I
No, they
just
could both stay that way
Yeah.
also, but
giving a little back and forth if they would agree to 9 and 10 being shared. 11 and 12 were high and dry and could easily be with no disturbance separated. If they
Yeah,
wanted
we'll
to do that.
definitely take a
But yeah, they
look
could
at
stay the
that.
same, whatever.
yeah, because that was the guy that you could see his house
With the camper.
with the
yeah.
camper and stuff
Yep.
is here, right?
This is the camper up
Marked down
here.
there.
That's the camper down there.
Yeah, it's way up here. This is
The high
high.
point.
And like I said, I know,
Yeah.
that's the thing,
This
when
was
you
Mexico
walked
City.
in
Oh, yeah, that was,
for
yeah.
lot 9, you kind of came through this tree line where the tree
Yep.
was down and walked, it was up in here where there was like a woods road almost.
Yep.
It was very, yeah, so that was up here that it was wet.
And we actually have a little wet symbol right here.
Right.
Yeah,
So down here, I don't think.
no, that down there was okay. And
We
then-
have the same issue. I mean, over here, when you came if you were down, like it came down this area and came into lot 8, like the back of lot 8 and over here, that was kind of a wet area there. So. But
don't have
yes, we
anything
will
else.
look. There's a lot of, yes, there's a
Yeah.
lot of.
Mark, you have, thank you, Mark.
Yep.
But we will definitely
No,
do that.
Nadine did the stuff that was like the next step, which is having a real ecological review and a T&E review and a herbs and spices review and to see like.
Travel and entertainment.
Travel and entertainment review to see if we're,
Patrick.
everything's in the right.
Thank
At this
you, Mark.
juncture, like it's, as Sam basically brought up 4 point in the last meeting. We get all the ecological conservation stuff first and
Then we can figure out.
then we
where
can
everything
figure
goes.
out.
Lay out
where
where it
we go
goes,
after, Right. So-
Right, so, and that's,
we're on
and I
track.
think that's right where we're at, like, if we are all in agreement that this is what the, the direction the board is comfortable with, then we will really, probably won't make another submission until we have those reports. And make sure we've advanced the design, because, and if anything changes because of those reports, we would, point that out and review it with you, so that's, so, yeah, I think we're on the same
Okay.
page.
Thanks, Mark.
I like the
Patrick.
improvements.
Great.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, ditto what everyone said. I think this is, it's great that you were able to take our chaotic scribblings and turn them into.
Totally made sense, it made sense. but-
The only thing that jumped out at me, and perhaps there's reasons that I don't totally understand, but on the area along the Rondout Creek, it's lots 3 through 6, and just the differential between the conservation area that's like gonna be deed restricted and the part that's.
Yeah.
I guess I can't actually believe that I'm saying this, but like to see if more of it could be like.
Yeah, and I'll tell you
number
why.
one,
I'll
Because I
tell you
understood
why.
on 3 with but like, it just feels like, why not have that all be shared access? I know that makes the acreage smaller on some of the lots, but like, we've already got some 1 acre, less than 2 acre lots on the plan.
Yeah, and no, so 6, 5, and 4,
Mhm.
basically, so 6 and 5, this is all steep slope. I
Right.
mean, nobody can do anything with it, really, nobody should be on it, so.
Because I just want to go to the.
So really, privacy, safety concerns, for that too. Lot 3 and 4, to be honest, to have actual frontage on the creek adds significant value to them. And also, again, to have some sort of privacy and, ownership is something that, the owner obviously is looking for, and we agree with it. And provide, because we still do provide,
Right, there's
shared,
frontage.
and to provide access is very important for the developer, for the homeowners association, so we will provide that. But, to have these houses even here and have people, lingering and staying, like, they don't want that, just honestly to have some privacy on these lots.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. I think, and I don't want to be a stick in the mud on this, but like, I guess when I looked at it, that was the only thing that jumped out at me as like, and if the rest of the board doesn't share that opinion, I'm happy to let it go, but I thought it'd be nice to maybe create a more contiguous shared access space. And maybe there's some sort of balance that could be struck that would preserve some of that privacy.
I mean, I see both sides of the coin there. The problem when we walk through, that really is steep. You do end up with those houses that are there. People are gonna be picking in their yard.
I'm more, yeah.
Really push it, it really gets pushed back from. So you sort of have to have access to get down to the Rondout.
Right.
And then you're there, but unfortunately, like, exactly, gonna be grimping up the side of someone's lawn. It's almost like physical constraints of the area make it tough to do what you want to do.
Maybe
Although
like that-
philosophically,
that
I agree
100-foot
with your goal.
setback From the creek maybe could be the line. I'm just wondering if there's like a balance. I'm
To
like,
Sam's point,
like imagining being, I mean, I guess I'm imagining like my 9-year-old self or something, like not being irritated or like probably just ignoring, like a problem if I was playing along the creek or something.
Well, I will tell you, and, you know, and I think I understand that and I
Yeah.
agree, like, you know, this access will get down to the creek, right? So
Yeah.
depending on the water, level, yeah, maybe they'll walk along the edge and they'll get in their car, whatever.
Yeah,
It's more really to protect everything, you know, on top of the creek, and then not to, you know, so if somebody comes out, the kids will run back over where they're supposed to be. Like, it's just,
right.
yeah, I mean, I know, because I did have this line between lot 3 and this conservation area here.
Uh-huh.
You know, it had been moved and it got moved here at the owner's request
Yeah,
to have, I mean, because lot 3 has gotten so small to
Sure.
begin with, that, you know, to have it, you know,
yeah.
a size that you can actually say, you know, this is a really desirable lot.
I totally understand. I think,
Yeah,
as-
yeah,
and I'll drop it, it's like, if there's a path to maybe looking at that 100-foot setback from the creek line as being
yeah, they're
where the line
definitely,
could be for the property, something like that.
they're
Like,
definitely
it
gonna
just feel-
provide access, and I think, you know, and the architect has to work this out
Sure.
and review the floodplain, you know, to eventually maybe see if they could put some sort of dock situation down there.
well, that's where I was
something like
going to Sam's point. I kind of under Sam's going with it. And I also realize that these are going to value, lot 3 and 4 are going to be pretty valuable lots in terms of, but you do provide that conservation area which has access to the stream.
that. They're
Right.
definitely gonna provide
And if-
access
To
down there.
that, to Sam's point, if some sort of canoe launching, kayak launching
Or stairs
um,
down.
spot could be placed in there.
Yeah.
Obviously for the
I was
residents,
gonna say.
And
Is it- yeah,
definitely,
does
you
DEC
know,
allow that?
that would be useful. What
Yes.
Does the DEC allow that?
no, so that's the thing. So there's a whole floodplain
Army Corps.
issue with the town is big. You know, there's a no build, and I know that there is an application, which is not available online, so I have to find it. And, you know, to see if that's something that they can pursue or not. You know, from an engineering standpoint, you know, we're not designing stairs. We're, you know, providing frontage, providing, you know, a trail access. At this point, that's as far as it goes, because everything else would require, you know, some sort of permitting
Mhm.
that we're just not,
you're not going to get into it.
good. Yeah, we're not doing that, decide to do that at some point.
Jorian, do you have any, Sam, do you have anything else?
No, that was it.
Jorian?
Yeah, just basically going along to find the compromise between privacy and have accessible area for the area
Yeah,
as
definitely.
much as possible.
Yeah,
The only request I have is to just work with Nicole on a variety of different maps we have, so that she can get the correct one and also get rid of the ones that are no longer extant.
yes,
All right,
and
so if you could
that,
help her with that.
that would be great. And because I think what, you know, tonight, since we're here, you know, just to have that in minutes on that the board is, you know, these are process maps, right? They're so
Yep.
happy with the process maps.
Yes.
You know, 2A, 2B with this date on it, and we get that on the record, and then I can definitely, you know. make
Was there
sure-
anybody who wanted to make a comment? Because go around on lot number 13. Is there anybody who wants to? Is everybody okay with 13?
I mean, I'd still, as Zora impressed with the picture,
Yeah.
sort of showing where it is, and I did you drive on Lucas at a time like now, where it gets dark very early. And if that house isn't really in the trees, not against the trees, you could, the view shed will have light pollution from that house, because right now, that whole side there is just pitch black wood. So I don't know if we need, I know that we voted not to do view shed study, or if we could push
I think we
the
should
house
Still do reshed study.
Well, on that note.
Still have
It's
to
in there
proceed.
pretty good.
So I know that what we talked about too is, again, the balance, and that's what the comprehensive plan talks about, the balance between, what is visible and, being a residential use to still make the house have a good sighting and have the view of its own. So, and at this point, because I think we are really just talking about one lot out of the 14, potentially when you're driving down Lucas Avenue, if you're looking, that you may say, oh, they got their lights on, and honestly, and I'm just gonna say this time of year, because it's one of my favorites, I personally go down the roads looking, who's got their decorations on, who's got their lights on, but that's just me. And I just, so I just want to, again, strike a little bit of balance. And we are also still working with the architect who's coming up with a plan, very specific plan for the house configurations with different variations, or I should say, add-on. So the house with the garage and the pool, or, that kind of thing. So the architect will provide us with that so that we can provide you with that footprint, the options for the footprint, and get the footprints that shown on here specific to that. They've already talked about, providing landscaping between lots 5 and 6, because 5 and 6 are both in that open field. So they already have their own concerns about making these lots, private and not intrusive on each other or on others. So I think we still have a little bit of time to get you that information, because obviously we have to complete your information with seeker and no concern of the boards that it can be seen from Lucas Avenue. We'll present some mitigation to it and some.
The other thing I'm
information.
sure you're thinking about is not just having shrubbery between some of these houses, but since you have a homeowners association, presumably you'd be able to limit the amount of spotlights or high intensity lights on garages or on front doors and all that kind of stuff. So I'm sure you're thinking about that as well.
Yeah, the only homes that are going in here are the home that the architect has designed. So the lights, that it's not like everybody's gonna do what
They're gonna all match.
it's on this house, well, with other like different, oh, you can do this, or you can do that.
Options, sure.
So it's all going to be the same thing. So it's not like somebody's gonna have a 4-story home or something, and then, a cupola way up with some lights in
And
it.
put a
They're all gonna be the
1500 watt
same
light on the
type of thing. So we will definitely provide that so that you have.
Well, I was also thinking in terms of 13, the last, you don't want 2 spotlights shining out onto the meadow so they can look at the meadow at night
Exactly.
and everybody else can see the, it's like an army camp up on the hill with the light shining down.
Yeah, it's a good point. You can have 13 be unobtrusive, or you could have it be exactly.
Very
like-
obtrusive.
Very obtrusive. It could be a concentration camp up on the hill.
Yeah.
I guess my only other big thing is, I don't know, Mark and I, when we were but the Department of Health gives you an okay, that's what we basically say.
Right.
It really, I mean, you're like, this is what, and that is what, grosso modo, we probably shouldn't have all these houses here, because this is really wet, but that's sort of irrelevant. That's more of a 10,000 foot, This is
Yeah.
why this is why John Dawson didn't develop this already, because it's a tough piece of property.
Because he didn't hire Peak Engineering.
Probably true.
All right, that's a good one to end on.
Oh, wait, just, can we actually get, a stickler for approval? So just the motion to accept the conservation area, the house sightings, You could put, lot
Contingent upon the
13
study.
still,
Contingent upon the study.
Visual
Contingent upon
mitigation.
a gazillion things,
Yeah,
exactly.
but just,
I move that we formally acknowledge our generally
Tactical
approval.
With Sam's drawing,
Sam,
that
if I-
became
if-
reality.
I mean, I
Sam,
don't
if
know.
I could interrupt your motion, if you could, remember how you were excellent at telling us, you got to start with this section first. If your motion could encompass that the board is in the belief that we finished section, whatever it was, when we went through it, you went through it with us step.
Well, we haven't really, because we haven't gotten any of the ecological
haven't got the
stuff.
review.
no.
Well, that's part of seeker, which we're doing anyway. And again, if there is any significant change based on any of those results, we have to go over it.
You're
think that's
looking
fair.
for just like a sure
Conceptual.
footing to move forward with this plan. And I mean,
It's like anything else that if there's a portion that's not done and there's a substantial change
yeah, you
because
don't
of
want
it,
to keep.
oh,
Look,
we
I
have
think
to
you-
revisit it. Like
I
if
think the board is telling you, we're good, we're good.
We're
Anybody
generally in
have-
agreement with the approach you're doing. That's all you're gonna get.
Would you be comfortable?
Wait,
hang on.
Well, maybe
Hang
she
on.
needs to,
The
maybe
sketch
she
plan
needs to
thing you-
report to the client.
Hang on.
You need to
Would
report
you
to the
be
client.
comfortable with a motion to say that you
Authorized
you accept this conceptual plan contingent upon changes that may be necessary due to the environmental study?
love it.
I'll make a motion,
I'll
what she
second
said,
that.
what the attorney said.
Good one, Mary Lou.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mark, second it?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
we're all in favor.
Favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank
Anybody
you so
opposed?
much. Yeah, because I mean, even though this is a conservation subdivision.
Hey,
it's
good.
still-
Oh, my God.
Oh, you didn't have one yet?
I thought she was kidding.
Mary Lou.
This is what I PDF.
That-
It's really
that's just
good.
gonna show up in the minutes, right? You don't need to.
Yeah, I'll take them.
All right, so don't go anywhere.
What you
Yeah.
just said and they voted on, that's just gonna
Liz.
show up in the minutes.
Hush back.
Yes, yes.
You're done? for
Thanks,
tonight's work with
Nadine.
us? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good work. We'll
Thank
see you. So,
Oh, yeah, you guys are welcome. definitely. What's
thank you,
that?
Nadine. So don't go anywhere yet.
My
Don't anybody
kitchen.
make a motion to end.
Oh,
I have some other stuff that I want to go through with you. real
Come on,
quick.
Rick.
No. Gotta get done. Patrick, would you? handle the rest?
White chocolate.
What's being passed, thank you. What's being passed around
Happy
is,
holidays.
Thank you.
thank you, is the results of work done by Mark, Maren, Zach, and Sam took a quick look at this. Who spells, I think that was it for starters.
Rick, would you like me to?
Yeah, why don't you do that?
So Rick, Zach, and I talked and discussed the need for some proactiveness from the board's application standpoint. Our goal is to sort of create some continuity with applications and the actual applicant in mind, rather than the board in mind, by recognizing each and every item that potentially could be asked upon, depending on what type of application you are submitting for. To keep Nicole more organized and to keep applicants more organized, we felt like this layout was the best way to come up with things. When we added Maren in, we got some really good feedback about adding the codes and hyperlinking those codes so that when you're out on the web, you can literally see the application checklist, and depending on what you're reviewing or looking for, you can actually look at the code and see what it actually is requiring. With this, we feel like this would be a great change to the current application checklist that we have in the packet, and utilizing this instead for the applicants and for the board to see what was submitted and when.
Okay, so Sam, I know you had some comments you gave me today.
I mean, I think this is really excellent. I think we're like iteratively making this better and better. My main comment, and I shared this with Mark during our break, but was that maybe leaving a little bit of a gap between the stuff that's part in the initial submission.
Sure.
And then maybe like the other kind of question was this, I think would be potentially used by sometimes by Nicole, sometimes by an applicant, and like maybe kind of making it clear, like just clarifying those different uses in the intro. Like, you know, applicant use this to keep track of your application.
Right, so our goal, the point of this was to keep the applicant in mind at the forefront, is because when the applicant comes to us, we historically seen a laundry list of items that we potentially need when the applicant hasn't seen that on the front end. This could potentially avoid that. If they're doing a major subdivision, they can look at this and go, wow, I need to get all of these things in order to do a major subdivision, potentially rethinking it or being a little bit more prepared.
I mean, I think we even saw that
Yep.
at today's
Exactly.
meeting with the lot lines.
Agreed.
even, You know, which is.
So
simpler
on the
application.
standpoint of internal processes, Rick, Nicole, people who are involved in the application process, they could utilize this as more of a checklist saying,
You
Same
can-
to you.
Hi, Liz.
they could use this as saying, hey, on 12, this was submitted, this was submitted. And then Nicole can utilize this in her folders to say, this was discussed at the board, highlighted, we're done with it. Mary Lou has reviewed the right-of-way agreements, those are completed, giving us a better picture of what is still outstanding, which will determine if Rick puts them on the next meeting agenda or not.
So Patrick just said, do we already have this? Yes, we already do. This is.
We have this in our packet
This
currently.
is the same stuff that
Mhm.
Sam and I put on the application on the G drive. It's just cut and paste.
Mm.
So that's what Nicole uses is the G drive stuff. It's just something applicants can't get into the G drive.
Right.
So this is for the applicant to have it. And a lot of times, to take from what you said, they will think like, oh, we're just making this up, or Nicole's just making it up, whatever. So the hyperlink is basically saying, well, actually, all this says is exactly that code that is right there. Go back to the code. It'll link you right up and say, oh yeah, it says right here, you must have blah, 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 and blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Right, well, what is a public hearing and its fee? They can click on that actual code and it will take them to what describes our code.
And you're right that the problem with what we had already, because it's the exact same data that
Yeah.
Mike Vaden put together.
Right.
It was so dense and so big, you give it to them, they do this. Everybody throws it out, it's too much.
Or they give it back.
Or they give it
with
back
The
to you.
completed application.
They just give, it's right in the back of the completed application, still
Well,
stapled there.
I get the compartmentalization of this as opposed to the
Right.
documentation
Right.
that we have.
Right, the documentation approach, unfortunately, people just saw it out. And we also took like things the planning board might consider out of it.
Right.
Because that was sort of first, which technically is really good for everybody to know,
Mm.
but they don't really care.
They were
just-
over, right.
They're overwhelmed. They just want to know, like, I need my
What do
fee,
you
check. I need my zoning application, check. Okay, am I gonna be on? So this gets more to that stuff to make sure they have the stuff they have to have.
So Mark, I know I told you I was gonna get you some comments and I
Yep.
decided that some of them were just nits and, we can talk.
Yeah,
about
sure.
them. But let me give you an example. Maybe it's the only example of how do we handle the following. On
Okay.
page 2,
Yep.
3/4 of the way down, there's one that says survey checklist, legal, comma, should be comma, legal data and map notes.
Yep.
And if you look off to the right, every type of action is checked off. So
Correct.
minor, major, lot line.
Yep.
If you look at these codes, they cover all 5 of these because these codes refer to minor, major, lot, the whole 9 yards.
Sure.
But to Patrick's point, what I find most useful for lot lines at least is the application package that I gave out
Yep.
twice tonight.
Yep.
And that's not specifically outlined in any one of these codes. So if the applicant was to say, well, what the hell are they talking about? Survey checklist, comma, legal data, comma, and map notes, and they go to these codes, they're not gonna find the stuff that's in what Patrick referred to, the G drive. And I think that's okay. I just help
could
me
just take a
understand how
reference-
to, hang on, let me just formulate how do we handle that? And we're not telling the applicant, don't look at the package because there is, as you said, deep stuff there. If they only looked at this, they're still going to be saying, well, it doesn't say anything about meets and bounds. It doesn't say anything about
Right.
the little, the box there
Right to
that need- for
farm.
the signature, but it
Yep.
doesn't say anything.
But we
about-
can't do everything, Rick. We just
I'm
can't.
not,
I mean,
I'm not
this is like-
suggesting that this is not good. I'm saying, how are we gonna describe the use of
It's a
this
valid question.
in the context of what we already have? And what I think, we're not throwing both out. This is gonna be more of a summary, but this isn't gonna satisfy every question.
Right, I
or
think the
piece of
goal-
Confusion that the.
I think the
applicants
goal of
might
this
have.
is just for applicants to recognize as a guide,
Right.
this is all the things that we're gonna be potentially looking for, depending on your development. DeJager, there's gonna be a heck of a lot more
And
requests.
she won't even need this.
But there's.
She doesn't need, because she knows.
Right, but there's gonna be a lot more, you gotta think about it as an applicant who's never done this before. There's gonna be a lot more requests on a DeJager type subdivision for an applicant who's never done this before, compared to Nadine, who's done this many times. So Nadine's not gonna utilize this, but an applicant such as myself or Zorian, whoever's submitting a piece of property, looks at this and goes, okay, I need a lot of stuff here. I might need to get some clarification, and this gives them the ability to go get that. Keeping in mind that every little footnote, right to farm, not right to farm, can't future subdivide, all those little nuances will be stuff that we'll talk about as a board.
Right.
and
They don't
determine.
need to know that. They don't need to care about it. They don't need to know to put it on, because they don't know, because or you can just say, we turn us into an AI bot and there's no planning board anymore, and they just fill out the form, the AI bot says, up, yeah, you filled out everything. It's what the big problem we're having is, they don't have a zoning permit, then they don't know they need a public planning board application also, then they don't pay their fees. Then they're like, oh my God, I need to do a consulting CPL fee. It's really like the initial, all the stuff in the front is what matters. The stuff afterward gets a little bit like Mike's, a little dense and whatever.
And case by case basis.
And a case by case basis, you might not need any of that or whatever, or you just take a lot of that other stuff off. And you just say, here's your front page, you absolutely just need these initial things.
This is not replacing the application.
Right, it's not replacing.
No,
the
it's just replacing
application.
the current checklist that's, I don't want to say confusing, but it doesn't give them the ability to realize.
Intimidating.
Yeah, it's a
It's
little intimidating. They
intimidating.
look at it and they go, whoa, and then they give it back and they don't even
They're like, I'm not
utilize it.
even gonna look at it.
Here, I think that Nicole would be proactive and say, hey, you want to keep this page, right? You want to give me the application, you keep this page. And as you submit these things, or as the board requests these things, you can check them off your list so you can have a little bit of a checklist. I
Yeah,
think this is
maybe
just the
there's-
goal to be more proactive.
But where's it gonna be posted on?
This is going to be on the front page of the application that's
And
in
on the
hand in the
And on the
office,
website.
and on the website for them to use the hyperlinks for their
Website, meaning the town. board,
town of Rochester planning
Planning
board website.
planning board.
Yes,
Maybe just one, like to summarize, I think if we did separate out the initial stuff into its own sheet
Yep.
and then maybe thought of everything else as like, here's an index of everything else and which things it applies
Right, based
to.
on code could be.
yeah,
Right,
exactly.
and then we,
That's
and
easy.
then
I
you
like
can
that.
put that.
I do
I
too.
like that,
And
yeah.
then you can put that contingency, like, once you're in the process, the following things may be requested.
Correct.
It could be helpful to familiarize yourself ahead of time.
Sure.
Here's the,
And I put that as a
Yeah.
footnote on the last page, which will change
Yeah,
the
I saw
verbiage,
that.
but it just says this list is to be used as a guide. Additional items may be asked at any time by the planning board, because again, on a subdivision like Nadine's, we're gonna ask for a lot more than a crumstone natural subdivision.
and then you've got like a page 1 and a page 2, and it's like everyone gets through page 1.
Right.
And then
it-
never.
That's good. No, I
exactly.
love it.
they don't-
I think
at
that's great.
least do.
They
it makes
I
make
think
it
that's
work.
great.
And it makes it less intimidating,
Page one ahead.
which is one of the
Yeah.
goals, is to like get people to do the things that we really
Right, and
need
page one can be, Nicole again will say, okay, page one's complete. Now we can get this on the
on the
agenda.
agenda.
And then page two is,
So
So you
you
think
you
you'd
look
be
at it
able
as
to
an
accomplish
introduction for applicant, introduction to the process.
right, it's an
Yeah.
introduction to the process, yeah.
So you think you'd be able to encompass my comments, Sam's comments, all the comments you heard tonight?
Yeah.
And so if we could,
I'd like to
Take a
have the rest of the month to work on that and
Yeah, yeah,
finish
well,
it, and then maybe at the workshop meeting when Mary Lou gives her instructional training, we can potentially roll this out. We don't need town board approval. It's just a formality change of a current form to an updated form, so potentially for the new year, we could have.
I mean,
that.
So I'd
in
like you
theory,
to-
she could have just done it and implemented it herself.
what I'd like you to do is think about how to operationalize this with Nicole in terms of how this integrates with the whole.
Yeah, so
application.
Nicole and I talked about that on the side, just about whether we put one of these in every folder that she has.
Right.
And then she can highlight those things on as a checklist for her once it's completed from board review and it's checked off, Mary Lou agrees with the right-of-way agreement, shared driveway agreement, so that's been checked off, or we can utilize it as a
You can't
checklist.
make it anymore, huh?
We can utilize it as,
Have a great night.
And hardworking. Very
thank you.
Thank you.
Ultimately, it would be something that Nicole could utilize as her checklist to figure out if things have been submitted, when they've been submitted, if they haven't been submitted, and then ultimately for you to warrant if it gets to be put on the agenda or not.
Okay, I think this is wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you guys could, same group could continue to work.
Yeah,
on it.
Zach and I will work on the formalities of updating it. We'll send it to Maren for a second look of review and then be happy to get it out for
And then
everybody
just
else.
operational wise.
Yep. And then Sam, you can take a peek.
Yeah, I was saying. it's good.
So legally blonde.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Rick.
The last thing is, we are gonna have the workshop meeting for January, whatever date that is.
Yep.
Because Mary Lou is gonna give us training.
I can hardly wait.
I know you're just, she's gonna be there, she's gonna be the school mom.
I'm gonna give handouts.
Can I participate on Zoom? Can I participate on Zoom because I've been out of town, January?
Right now, the governor will allow us to do remote until January 15th. It will be reevaluated. If
Get a drink.
If it's extended, we can do a hybrid meeting, partially here, partially there, totally Zoom, whatever. But if it's not extended,
I think
We
we had
Well,
discussed recording it.
I take
anyway,
it
though,
back.
right?
I always can watch it, right?
On the
Not
recording.
live
you can watch,
necessarily.
Okay.
you can watch it, but you won't be able to participate unless, you ready for this?
Yeah.
We advertise your location and anybody can go to it to attend.
No.
That's So we're out
It's
of
not
the,
gonna fit. Motion
Sure,
in
that's right.
place.
I think
motion to
we-
adjourn, second.
I think we had, the thought that we would record it, you'd be able to see the recording.
Yeah, you can-
training.
yeah, it'll be on
Sure,
YouTube
yeah.
because it's a meeting.
All right, that's
It's
fine.
all-
Meeting?
Training.
So mark your calendars
I
for
have 52.
January 24th
Okay.
is the workshop meeting.
Meeting.